I opened a travel agency in the world of cultivation. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201, Selling in Two Worlds. Although 118 little beam people seemed like a lot, once they were scattered among the 5 or 6,000 students, they disappeared like water in the sea. Yang Zhao squatted down and looked at the 2 little bean people beside her. The 2 little bean people kept hiding when she was assigning them. You two will follow me for the next part of the journey. I'm Yang Zhao. Master Yang, I'm brimming. I came here last time. I'm Renzong. I will trouble Comrade Yang today. Brimming looked at the little beam people next to him in surprise. Young people like him would never call others comrades. It seemed that these 2 words were too hard to say. Yang Zhao looked at the scattered crowd and called them to go and look around. The gravity here is a little weak, and the little beam people jumped when they walked. This square is located in the corner of a large military camp. There are no prosperous shops or busy streets here. There are only standard buildings and soldiers on guard. If this is really the case, then these students will not leave the square. Yang Zhao took the 2 little bean people and followed the crowd out. After walking for a mile, they found a strange scene. At the top of the street stood a 2-story building, covering an area of more than 200 square meters, a few meters high, and looked small and exquisite. There was a plaque hanging outside the building, which read Wanbao Building. It sat there quietly, like a pixie, swallowing up a steady stream of students, but not spitting out a single person. The key is how can this 2-story building accommodate thousands of people? Could it be that this ordinary 2-story building also has some kind of space formation? It seems that when encountering a cultivator, any unreasonable thing can become reasonable. Yang Zhao asked the 2 little bean people next to him for their opinions, and the 3 of them unanimously agreed to go inside for a walk. As soon as they stepped into the door, Brimming exclaimed. Because in the small building with an area of only more than 200 square meters on the outside, the area of the first floor is at least 3,000 square meters, with a net height of more than 5 meters, and a huge animal head is placed in the middle of the hall. The beast head was at least 3 meters tall. Its fur was not peeled off, and it seemed to still have the warmth of a giant beast. Its eyes were wide open and its expression was ferocious. Even Yang Zhao took 2 steps back in fear when he saw it. When this thing was alive, it could probably kill a child with 1 claw. Brimming didn't dare to get close to it. He always felt that the beast's fangs were still shining with blood. Is this real? Is it a sculpture? Renzong couldn't help his curiosity. Is there really such a big beast head? Is it a dinosaur? After all, Yang Zhao was in the foundation building stage, and her eyes were much sharper than those 2. She saw the word for sale on the sign on the tree next to the beast head. She pointed at the sign and said, "This thing is real, and it's for sale." Oh. The 2 little bean people seemed to have no other language except exclaiming. This thing is just for fun. Anyway, Yang Zhao will not buy it. Looking up at the lobby on the first floor, you can also see more than a dozen floors of shops above. They are surrounded in a circle, and the storefronts are facing the circle. Here, the stairs seem to have become an accessory. People who come here fly directly from the first floor to choose items. Even those who can't fly can input spiritual power into the floor, and the magic array on the floor will gently lead humans to walk in the air. Master Yang, do you have your phone? Did you record it? Brimming's first reaction was to record it quickly. If it was posted online, it would probably go viral. Yang Zhao subconsciously covered his bag and said, "You scared me. I have it, but the phone recording is not as shocking as seeing it with my own eyes." Unlike the 2 people who looked up stupidly, Renzong had already lay on the ground and began to carefully observe the patterns on it, even though he couldn't understand anything now. After a while, Yang Zhao noticed Renzong lying on the ground, and she walked over and squatted. This should be a huge complex magic array. There are magic array patterns all over the ground. You see, this piece is useless. Renzong lay on the ground and stroked the floor, saying without raising his head, "I know, but I can't control my curiosity. This is like a transformer box on an aircraft carrier. I can't observe this aircraft carrier from all directions, so it's good to give me a transformer box to see. Seeing that he was determined, Yang Zhao stopped persuading him and stood by to observe. The most sold items in the first floor lobby should be biological products. Various teeth, horns, scales, feathers, and bones and organs are neatly stacked together in different categories, and there are even small animal corpses that have not been decomposed. The fresh air system here should be very good. There is no blood smell in the entire first floor lobby, and the overall feeling is neat. Li Beining is still a little scared of these things. He estimated that among the people he knew, only Cheng Yi, who studied medicine, might not be afraid of this scene like a slaughterhouse. But he couldn't bear to move his eyes away. The strange animal head, the beautiful feathers, and the gorgeous fur were all impacting his sight. It was that he had no money now, otherwise he would have bought 2 feathers to take back as a local specialty of this trip. Master Yang, when do you think we can buy things here? I want to wrestle some things for living expenses. Yang Zhao looked at them with envy. This is not something I can decide alone. You can only enjoy your eyes now. When traveling, aren't we all afraid that the tour guide will recommend expensive goods to tourists? It seems that you don't have this concern. After all, it was the second time to travel with a group. Li Beining was already much more familiar with her, and she started to talk nonsense. It depends on the time. If I buy the kind of tour in our hometown, I will lose money, but if I buy one here, I will make a fortune. Master Yang, if you do this business of wrestling the communication between the 2 worlds, can you become the richest man in a year? Yang Zhao nodded affirmatively. I think so too, but I can't do it this way. It's a pity. The wrestling business between the 2 families is of course easy to do, but it also has the greatest impact on society, and every small fluctuation in society will implicate many people. She can't bear this responsibility, and she doesn't have such a hard heart. She can't turn a blind eye, but she can only endure this temptation. Fortunately, she has now focused her mind on cultivation, so she is less eager for the gold mountain. Anyway, she is not short of money now, it's just a matter of how much she can earn. Ren Zhongying, who was lying on the ground, rarely looked up and praised him. Comrade Yang has a sense of justice. People should always have some principles. It's terrible to have people without principles but with strength. Li Beining felt a little embarrassed when he heard Ren Zhongying's words. Originally, they were 2 middle school boys discussing how to make money, but in the mouth of someone, it was so lofty and noble, and he was called a bit mercenary. Chapter 202, Shopping. Boarding the ship. Although Ren Zhongying was reluctant to leave the first floor, Yang Zhao and Li Beining agreed to go up there to have a look. With a democratic vote of 2 to 1, Ren Zhongying could only listen to the people and go with them. Yang Zhao input spiritual power into the floor, letting the power of the formation push the little bean man up to the second floor. Li Beining excitedly opened his arms to control his balance. Oh, am I flying? Ren Zhongying commented objectively. This feels a bit like a wind tunnel. The second floor is a variety of metal ores and non-metallic ores. They are like some jewelry, taking out a piece and placing it neatly on the counter. If someone likes it, they can take a kayankan bag to see the goods. It should have been a very boring place, but it exudes a different style. These ores are really too beautiful. They have different colors. It seems that all the colors that Yang Zhao can name are here, but most of the colors cannot be named. Moreover, the texture of many ores is also very luxurious. Some are transparent and some are opaque. Some are hard and flashing with cold light, and some are soft and sticky, and you can pinch off a piece with your hand. There are even minerals that become solid when they touch people's hands, and become liquid when they are placed on the counter. Li Beining asked, while looking at it, is this something in our periodic table? I don't know who can answer this question, but Yang Zhao can't. This depends on our careful study. Ren Zhongying lay on the counter and stared at a small bright purple stone, muttering to himself. An hour is not much time, so they took a quick look at the second floor and then started to move to the third floor. The third floor is full of various flowers, grasses, trees, and woods. Some flowers are flourishing, while others are dehydrated. Some grasses are lush, while others have been dried. The trees grow as they wish, while the woods are cleaned and neatly stacked. Among them, in front of a plant, Yang Zhao and the other three were completely unable to move. It was a light purple vine, winding and winding, with neither flowers nor fruits. But the merchant who sold it put a small teapot underneath, and steam was rising from the teapot. This vine was rooted in the water vapor, and floated in the air. Although its roots rose, and fell with the water vapor, its branches and leaves were fixed at the same height in the air, which was very stable. This contradictory and magical individual was placed in front of them. This thing is the plant in the sky garden. The three of them stood there unable to move, but the boss who was selling grass did not think highly of this thing. 1 or 2 plants of this thing are not very practical, and it is troublesome to take care of them. It is really worthless. But even if the boss said so, Yang Zhao and the other three did not care. Li Beining once again lamented that he did not bring his mobile phone and could not take pictures of this magical scene to show his parents, his friends and classmates. This thing will definitely make him the brightest kid in the school. Yang Zhao held his school bag and adjusted the angle to take pictures carefully. Ren Zhongying was attracted by its floating balance in the air and circled around it several times. They spent a long time on this plant. When they finished admiring it, many students had already gone back. Yang Zhao could only lead the little beam people out of the Wanbao building with regret, and finally gathered at the square in the corner of the military camp. Along the way, Li Beining regretted that Yang Zhao didn't spend money to buy 1 or 2 things. Master Yang, didn't you have the urge to shop in the building? She could only smile without answering. The main purpose of her coming this time was the competition, and everything else had to be put aside. When they returned to the square, the teachers of various prefecture schools had already waited there early. The flags of various prefecture schools flew over the square. Yang Zhao found the flag of Yang Zhao Prefecture School and stood under it. This time, after waiting for half an incense stick, everyone on the playground gathered. Then, there was a buzzing sound in the air. Yang Zhao looked up and saw 2 huge flying boats slowly flying over. These 2 boats were about 80 meters long and 50 meters high. They had no sails or oars, but the overall shape was a ship. This was much larger than the small flying boats she had seen in the Great Zhao before. As they stopped more than 100 meters in the air, the teacher of Yang Zhao Academy took out a bell from his arms and shook it, attracting the attention of all the students in Yang Zhao Academy. Pay attention, we have to board the spaceship on the left. The students in the foundation building stage will fly up by themselves, and the students in the key training stage who can't fly will take the teacher's magic tools to fly up. Don't fall behind. After saying that, the teachers put away the flags and then showed their magical powers to bring the students in the key training stage of Yang Zhao Academy up. Yang Zhao's followed the teachers and flew onto the ship with a little bean man. The entire flying boat was made of dark metal. As soon as they arrived on the symbolic deck, the teachers urged them to go inside the flying boat. Hurry up and get in, the flying boat will start soon. The 2,000 or 3,000 people on the deck were like water absorbed by a sponge. In less than a cup of tea, there was no trace. As the last person entered the cabin, the 2 flying boats began to turn around and slowly rose into the air, and then the speed became faster and faster. The entire cabin was closed, and the magic array of summoning was lit everywhere in the cabin. Led by the gentleman, Yang Zhao and the others walked along the corridor to the lobby on the 2nd floor below the deck. On the wall of the lobby was a huge round mirror, which allowed them to clearly see the outside scene. For example, there was another flying boat not far from their ship, and the row of luminous objects in the sky that were getting bigger and bigger. Yang Zhao always felt that they were like big light bulbs, and it was even more like that when she looked closer. It was a row of large light sources floating in the air without any support points. Because the light was too bright, she could not observe it carefully with her naked eyes, and could not see what was inside it. Is this a crossing boundary flying boat? Ren Zhongying looked around cautiously, squatted down and touched the floor, and then stood up quickly, fearing that he would attract other people's attention. Not sure, this is my first time riding a crossing boundary flying boat. Yang Zhao stared at the huge round mirror, and couldn't take her eyes off it. It really looked like a big screen. She missed the days of watching TV and movies. Since coming here, she has passively quit her internet addiction, which is much better than the internet addiction clinic. Ren Zhangiying was a little short, and he pulled at Yang Zhao's clothes in embarrassment. Can I be taller? I want to see the spaceship on the screen. Yes, Master Yang, I can only see your noble buttocks from here. Obviously, Li Beining also had a lot of complaints about his height. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203, Journey. The height of the little beam people was indeed a bit awkward, so Yang Zhao summoned a breeze to lift them up. Suddenly, the flying boat crashed into darkness, and Yang Zhao felt his whole body lighten, and his feet had left the floor, and were floating slightly in the air. At the same time, the whole hall was filled with exclamations, and if you listen carefully, you can hear a few muted Chinese characters. Just as she was shocked, the two little bean people beside her had been blown high up by the wind, and were getting higher and higher. Yang Zhao quickly sent a force downward, and with the help of the force rebound, he caught up with the two little bean people, grabbed them, and then controlled the breeze, to let the three of them fall down together. These little bean people were not strong, and Yang Zhao was afraid that they would go offline, because of hitting the ceiling. What's going on? Li Beining paddled his hands and feet hard to keep his balance. It seems that we have left the gravity of the planet. It's okay. We just entered outer space. Ren Zhangiying comforted him, and continued to shift his gaze, to look at Da Jingzi. Li Beining's worry turned into joy in an instant, and he became excited. This is really exciting. Is this what it feels like to fly into space? I didn't expect that I could be an astronaut again. Am I bringing honor to my family? Yang Zhao looked at an empty space with few people and flew over, then took out two cloth strips from his Kayankan bag, tied one end to his waist and the other end to the waist of the little bean man. It should be considered. Don't worry, I will record you well. Li Beining looked at the plain cloth strip on his waist, which was somewhat inconsistent with the sci-fi scene around him. Master Yang, is your mobile phone charged enough? A fully charged mobile phone connected to a fully charged large milliamp power bank. Enough for me to use for a day. Yang Zhao tested the tightness of the cloth strip and nodded with satisfaction. These two cloth strips were the ones he used in Yang Zhao Lake, and he didn't expect to use them again today. She let go of her hands, and the two little bean men floated in the air by themselves. Li Beining had a lot of fun doing breaststroke and bouncing within the rope. Ren Zhangiying's attention was always on the huge mirror. In the center of the huge mirror, there was only another flying boat moving alone. The picture had been motionless for a long time, and there was no change for a long time. It looked like a photo stuck there. Yang Zhao and Li Beining were a little curious at first, but gradually they got bored. However, Ren Zhangiying still stared at the mirror intently, not willing to blink twice. Hey, brother, what are you looking at? The picture doesn't move. Li Beining swam towards him. Look at the good stuff. This ship should be a short distance ground to air transport ship. Judging from its size and the comparison with this cabin, it is known that there are not many guest rooms inside. It is estimated that they have an aviation base in outer space. Li Beining blinked and looked at Yang Zhao with a puzzled look. Master Yang, we are just doing our daily cultivation. Why do we feel a little confused? Yang Zhao also blinked and stretched out his hand to summon a small fireball. Look, I'm really practicing Taoism, but Taoism also requires respect for science. The two were still chatting, and Ren Zhangiying excitedly shouted, "It's out." The two were stunned, and turned to look at the big mirror. They saw a tiny bright spot on the dark mirror. Then, the bright spot quickly grew larger, and turned into a huge monster in the blink of an eye. From a distance, it was a flat building complex with sharp edges on the edges of the four sides. The closer you get, the bigger you can feel it. Gradually, the entire image of the mirror was aimed at the huge monster, and those sharp edges were not buildings at all, but flying boats docked on it, large and small, at least dozens of them. Looking at this spectacular scene, Yang Zhao couldn't help muttering to himself, I'm not sure now whether I'm in the world of Taoism. This is more like a scene from a science fiction movie, and it has nothing to do with the world of Taoism. Obviously, Yang Zhao was not the only one who was shocked. The exclamations in the entire cabin were also endless. At this time, a girl's voice sounded in the cabin. Please prepare for those who are transferring to the crossing ship. We are about to dock. I repeat, we are about to dock with the crossing ship. Please prepare for those who are transferring. As soon as the notification stopped, the teachers from various prefectural schools took out their flags. This time, the patterns on the flags glowed. Yang Zhao felt a slight vibration in his arms. He took it out and saw that it was the Yang Zhao prefectural school student certificate that Mr. Lee had given her, the small sign. He originally thought that this was just a simple identity certificate, but now it was also a sounder that responded to the vibration of the flag. Students from various prefectural schools gathered around the flags of their own prefectural schools. In a blink of an eye, the thousands of people who were scattered were divided into more than 20 small groups. After a cup of tea, the sound of notification sounded again in the cabin. The crossing ship has docked. Please prepare to leave the cabin for transfer. I repeat, please prepare to leave the cabin for transfer. The crossing ship has docked. All the people began to line up and move up along the path they came from. It's just that they walked when they came in and floated when they left. Li Baining asked, while hanging on the rope, we won't go directly into outer space, will we? No, I, a foundation establishment stage student, definitely can't stand being directly exposed to outer space. Yang Zhao shook her head firmly. Her cultivation was the best among these students. 70 to 80% of the students here were still in the key training stage. She couldn't stand the environment of outer space, let alone other students. Ren Zhongying, hanging on another rope, comforted them. It's probably the docking hatch. There is a corridor that can be directly connected together, and the personnel can be safely transferred from the corridor. Yang Zhao nodded in agreement. Right, this is a big competition, not some evil god ritual that requires human lives to be sacrificed. As they moved, they finally saw the exit. The exit was dark, but shining with a golden edge. As they got closer and closer to the exit, Yang Zhao could see clearly what the golden light was. It was actually various golden runes that were running rapidly in a certain way, forming a golden edge at the exit. Only after she got out of the door did she see clearly that the exit was covered with a rune cylinder with a diameter of more than 3 meters, and outside the cylinder was the dark outer space. Yang Zhao hesitated and did not dare to move forward. After all, in her worldview, these rune passages did not bring as much security as metal passages. But she could not get stuck here, as there were many people waiting to get out. Mr. Lee saw that she was not moving forward and came over to comfort her. Why are you hesitating? Look at the people who passed by in front, and nothing happened. Just don't rush outside the rune. Indeed, many people had passed by in front, which proved that this rune passage was safe. Yang Zhao gritted her teeth and carefully avoided the runes on the edge and moved forward. Why is it late? Because I was out all day today. Chapter 204, Crossing the Boundary. This crossing ship is much bigger than the one they made before. It is nearly 20 times bigger than the latter. The hull is also pitch black, and Yang Zhao can't see its whole picture at all. The golden rune passage is connected between the two flying boats. This rune passage is 50 or 60 meters long. The two ships are probably not very close for safety reasons. The passage is slightly tilted downward, although there is no up and down in space. When it was halfway, it was confirmed to be safe. Yang Zhao finally put his mind at ease and had the leisure to look at the scenery on both sides. The rune passage was pitch black outside, and only 1 or 2 stars could be seen in the distance. Yang Zhao searched everywhere but to no avail, so he could only ask Mr. Lee, who was patrolling beside him. Mr. Lee, will the people on the other flying boat take another crossing ship? They are on the other side of this crossing ship. The students from various prefectures participating in the competition will take a crossing ship to Luoyang. Mr. Lee stared at the dozen students he was responsible for and did not forget to answer her questions. Why are you asking this? Yang Zhao smiled. I'm worried about my traction beams. It's only worth 1 or 2 silver coins. Why worry about that? Hey, what's your hand doing? I don't want you to say it directly. Mr. Lee shouted and floated away quickly. It seems that naughty students are everywhere, and the cultivation world is no exception. In fact, she was not worried about the little bean people on the other spaceship. If they went their separate ways after boarding the ship, the traction beams would never return to her hands. The government's little beam people are easy to repair, but her fans suffered heavy losses. Once the traction beams are damaged, they will have to rob them again. She has just started to build a divine body with incense and fire. Even if she goes to the land of clan souls, she can't summon the fans' consciousness on her own. She needs a written contract to contact them. She can't send the contract herself, so she can only trouble the country to enrich the people, and the country to enrich the people is troublesome to the army. Yang Zhao can't open her mouth, so it's better to let the fans grab the quota again. But it costs another 3,000 yuan to grab it. The 3,000 yuan includes the cost of the traction beams, the cost of the book contract, and the cost of the amulet given by the government, etc. Fortunately, they will finally board a cross-border flying boat. Those little bean people may have a chance to be recovered, saving a lot of time. I don't even need to wear a spacesuit when I go into outer space. This docking channel is too much like Cultivation. After crossing the Rune Channel and coming to the cross-border flying boat, Li Beining was already a little morbidly excited. He chattered all the way, waving his hands and feet randomly, and his fingers wanted to hit Yang Zhao's eyes before he would stop. My life has entered a new stage. I'm so amazing. My vision is opportunity. Hey, I'm the legendary Koi. Li Beining turned several somersaults in the air. Master Yang, you must take a more handsome picture of me. I'm destined to be written in the history books today. Yang Zhao moved with the people in front of him, pulling the rope of the little bean people, for fear that Li Beining would hit others. Please control yourself. If you get too excited, your consciousness will return to your body for safety. I won't call you back after you go back. The noise stopped abruptly. Li Beining's eyes widened, and he took several deep breaths, trying to suppress his excitement. Although the little bean man does not survive by breathing. Thank you for reminding me, Master Yang. I will hold back. I will hold back. Ha ha ha. Even though he knew the consequences, he couldn't help laughing in the end. Ren Zhangiying on the other side had been very quiet all the time, but he couldn't walk, since he saw the rune passage. He looked at the rune passage eagerly, and then at the crossing ship eagerly. He had to rely on Yang Zhao to drag him with a rope all the way. This time, as soon as he entered the crossing ship, the soldiers on the ship came to greet him. Generally, a school is led by 2 soldiers. These 2 people led the way and took them all the way to a restaurant. You have been traveling for a long time. Come and try the food on our ship. This restaurant is very large and can accommodate hundreds of people to dine together. According to the 2 soldiers, there are 12 restaurants of different sizes in the entire ferry, and this is one of them. At this time, the tables in the restaurant are already full of food, waiting for people to enjoy them. Why don't these meals float up? This is a question of all the students, and the soldiers obviously know their questions. There are formations on the tables and chairs to fix the food. You can sit on the chairs and enjoy it with peace of mind without worrying about the scene of food flying around. This sentence aroused Yang Zhao's interest. She rushed over to observe the tables and chairs carefully and found that there were indeed many talismans engraved on the tables and chairs. At this time, the talismans were glowing, firmly grasping the bowls, chopsticks, and food on the table. The dishes on the table were very generous in quantity, with rice, meat, vegetables and eggs all complete, and they smelled fragrant. At a glance, you can tell that they are oily and salty foods. Yang Zhao was not pretentious. She took the bowls and chopsticks and sat on the chair and started eating. This restaurant is very unfriendly to the little bean people because they can only watch but not eat. Although they have mouths to speak, they have no esophagus and stomach, and they can't even taste. But even so, these meals make Li Beining drool. I have never tasted food grown on other planets since I was a child, and I don't know when I can taste it. Yang Zhao is not used to talking while eating. In the end, it was Ren Zhangiying who was sitting on the ground studying the floor and comfortedly baining. You are still young. Judging from the trend, you will definitely be able to eat it. Li Beining was still grinning, and it took him a while to react. No, brother, how old are you? Why do you speak so old-fashioned? I'm young, just 63 years old. Ren Zhangiying said with a little pride. Li Beining was really shocked. Wow, you are almost the same age as my grandfather. I can't call you brother. I have to call you grandpa. What's the big deal? Call me whatever you want. You are more feudal than me, young man. Ren Zhangyi knocked on the floor without raising his head. If he was not on someone else's boat and was afraid of causing trouble to Yang Zhao, the only living person, he would have pried up the floor and taken it away. Many of the dishes on the table were things Yang Zhao didn't recognize. Fortunately, she was now in the foundation building stage and her stomach had some resistance, so she could taste those unknown things. Of course, more importantly, she had memorized the book Food Taboos and knew which ones she could eat. Chapter 205, Shadow of the Garrison Point. Li Beining looked at Yang Zhao eating delicious food and couldn't help but start to imagine. If I can come here in person in the future, I will shoot a food show in another world, specializing in eating things that are not available on Earth. When the time comes, I will post it on our website, which will definitely attract a lot of fans and make a lot of money. And our ancestors have said that eating good food can increase cultivation. Maybe I can become a great sage by eating it. Yang Zhao couldn't help but give him a thumbs up in her busy schedule. This is also her ideal. The people in the restaurant are all cultivators, so they naturally have a big appetite. After a while, the table was empty. When everyone finished eating, a soldier floated above everyone's head. Please gather in the training hall on the 11th floor after dinner. There, all of you prefectures and schools participating in the competition will gather together, and the examiners of this competition will announce the test questions. The students below became agitated, but were suppressed by the teachers of each prefecture and school. Then the soldiers led the way in front, and the teachers of each prefecture and school held the flags, and led the students to follow behind. The passage up and down was a huge empty shaft, with floor signs hanging on the edges of the upper floors. Yang Zhao and the others followed the soldiers and floated all the way to the training ground on the 11th floor. When she came in, she found that the training ground on the 11th floor was already overcrowded. After all, 5,000 or 6,000 people were gathered in one place. Then the teachers of the prefectural school held the flags of each prefectural school and arranged them in the previous order, and then organized their own students to gather together and line up. After these students were sorted out, the training ground suddenly became a little emptier. At this time, a group of people floated in the air, and one of them was an old man with a white beard, looking at the neat formation below, and nodded with satisfaction. He spoke in a loud voice, and thousands of people in the whole hall could hear what he said. I'm Chen Chang, and I'm mainly responsible for this Luoyuan competition. This competition is held in Luoyuan. We have cleared out a lot of garrisons for the competition. At that time, each school will guard a garrison. After guarding for a month, we will give you scores based on your performance during this month. The detailed scoring rules are placed in each garrison. You can see them when you get there. Because each garrison is different, the score evaluation for each station is different. Don't find fault with each other on this. Please act in accordance with the rules and strive to obtain the greatest benefits for your own school, and you can also win glory for yourself. If you find someone cheating, you can contact me in advance. Although the war in Luoyuan has temporarily stopped, it is a rare peaceful state in the past few decades, but I still hope that you will protect your own safety and don't lose your life because of your carelessness. The rules have been read out. Ask the soldiers stationed for specific details. It is less than an hour away from Luoyuan. We will tell you some geographical details of Luoyuan. I hope you will be mentally prepared and complete the competition well. After the old man finished speaking, he stretched out his hands, made hand gestures, and chanted a spell, and a shadow quickly expanded, covering half of the hall. Then he led the people to float out again. Yang Zhao looked carefully and found that these shadows were a three-dimensional miniature geographical model. It was written on it, Shangyilan, Zhangyilan, and Zailan. There were small red dots on the model, which were the garrison points. Each garrison point also had the name of each prefectural school written on it. She subconsciously found the garrison point of Yang Zhao Prefecture School and wanted to study the geography there. Who knew that, as soon as she focused her attention on the garrison point, the model quickly expanded in front of her eyes until it was as if she was there in person. Yang Zhao was startled. She moved back, and the young picture shrank back again. This thing was also automatically sensitive, which seemed to be an illusion. She tried to focus her attention on the red garrison point again, and sure enough, the shadow there quickly expanded again, as if she had arrived in person. At this time, she heard the teacher of Yang Zhao Prefecture School speak in her ear. You can take a closer look at the map here, and it's best to combine it with the information we sent you, so that you don't get lost when you get there. After that, the teachers no longer restricted the students' range of movement, allowing them to wander around the entire hall. The whole hall gradually became noisy. Oh, what kind of technology is this? Virtual reality? Three-dimensional stereo photography technology. Li Beining hung on a rope and floated beside Yang Zhao, observing the phantom and sighing. Maybe there is also brainwave capture technology. This phantom can respond to people's consciousness and enlarge or shrink. Ren Zhongying floated beside and guessed for a while, then concentrated on observing the layout of the entire training hall. Yang Zhao wandered around inside and replied, "This seems to be an illusion. I was fooled once before, but it was very different from this, so I'm not sure." The last time she was fooled by an illusion, it was a thank you gift from General Liu Zengxia of Huanggang, who was happy that she gave Miss Ruojuan extra lessons and helped Miss Ruojuan's math grades improve rapidly. Although she suffered a lot in this illusion, she also benefited a lot from it, which made her spearmanship enter the door in a short time. It was just that she was in trouble later because she provoked the dragon spear, but the result was still good. Although the dragon spear might not think so. If I learn this thing, I will replicate the scenery of various tourist attractions and put it on the street for 100 yuan for people to visit. I guess there will be a lot of people to see the curiosity, and then I will make a fortune. Li Beining sighed while testing the phantom. He was too short of money these days. After coming to the world of cultivation, no matter what he saw, he could think of making money. This had never happened in his previous days, because although his family was not particularly wealthy, he himself did not lack money to spend. Now that he felt the embarrassment of breaking a penny into two halves, his brain naturally wanted to earn it back unconsciously. "Grandpa Ren, don't you want to play with this thing? It's much more fun than your wall." "Is this wall more fun than the phantom?" Li Beining observed it carefully and found that there was nothing special. Ren Zhongying was led by a rope, looking up and recording the data of the entire training hall. "That's because you didn't find the fun in it. In my eyes, it's very interesting. We just have different interests." "That's true, but I still think this illusion is fun." Li Beining didn't hesitate too much and turned his attention to the phantom again. Yang Zhao over there had already walked around the garrison of Yang Zhao Prefecture School and was already familiar with where the mountains were and where the valleys were. Moreover, on this phantom, she could even enter the houses of the garrison and wander around. It gave people a sense of excitement of adventure. I fell asleep at night and just woke up. Chapter 206, Little Beam People's Social Networking. The garrison of Yang Zhao Prefecture School is located on a hillside. There are no trees or rivers on the simulated phantom, only the topography and details of the buildings inside the garrison. Yang Zhao visited the garrison of Yang Zhao Prefecture School and then visited several garrisons near Yang Zhao Prefecture School to prevent getting lost. Then she slowly touched the entire map roughly, trying to find some information about the enemy. This Luoyuan is a battlefield after all. What kind of battlefield is it without the enemy? But she went deep into the enemy camp for a long time and did not find any information about the enemy camp. This is very strange. It is impossible for the two hostile parties to know nothing about each other's information. It must be intentional that it was not put on it. It is estimated that this is also a test point for a big competition, and it is very likely to be used to collect information about the enemy camp. With the flow of the crowd, the thousands of people in the training ground gradually mixed together again. Yang Zhao could not find any useful information after visiting again. She looked around and began to collect the Little Bean people. After getting off the boat, she will be completely separated from those who are not from Yang Zhao Prefecture School, and those little people will become free people completely. The contract she signed with these students had been fulfilled when the Little Bean people boarded the crossing ship. The red string on her wrist had broken and disappeared. If she wanted to find the Little Beam people again, she could not rely on the book contract and had to find another way. But this was not difficult. Yang Zhao took out a spare half piece of white cloth from her arms. It was written in Chinese, "Is there anyone who wants to go home? If you don't go back now, we will not be responsible for the damage to the Kyang beans." On the back, it was written in a foreign language, "Recycle Kyang beans, 2 for 1 teal of silver." She spread the white cloth and let it float in the air. Then she shamelessly approached Mr. Lee and pointed at the white cloth in the air. "Sir, can you help me shake your bell magic weapon?" Mr. Lee looked at the white cloth floating above her head. "Don't blame me for meddling in other people's business. You're worried about Kyang beans. You'd better practice more. Cultivation is the foundation of a cultivator." "Thank you, Mr. Yang Zhao, for your teachings. I will definitely work hard to practice." She often said this kind of words to fool teachers and parents, and Mr. Lee probably heard it often, and no one took it seriously. He took out a bell from his bosom, put it on the white cloth and shook it twice. Suddenly, the whole hall was filled with bells, and everyone present could not help but focus their attention on the large cloth. Seeing that his goal was achieved, Mr. Lee put away the bell. Yang Zhao was no longer in a hurry and asked Mr. Lee, "Sir, does every teacher have this bell?" Mr. Lin looked as if it was a matter of course. "Yes, there are always some students who can't hear the teacher calling them again, and this saves their throats." Yang Zhao chatted with Mr. Lee under the white cloth while waiting for the little bean man to come. Some students came to her when they saw the white cloth, handed the little bean man beside them to her, and received 1 or 2 taels of silver. Some little bean men came by themselves, but more little bean men did not come back, and it was not known whether those students disliked the small amount of silver and were unwilling to move around for 1 or 2 taels of silver, or whether the little bean men themselves did not want to come back. Anyway, in the end, she only received more than 20, which was much less than what she had given away. The little bean people who returned to her side were discussing with her whether they could continue to take them on the next journey. Yang Zhao turned to ask Mr. Lee, "Sir, how do we get to Luoyuan next? Should we take the crossing ship directly?" "The crossing ship does not land. When you arrive at the captain, you will take 3 flying cars and go to the upper abyss, middle abyss and lower abyss respectively. You can only take 2 of these little bean people with you." Yang Zhao thought about it and made a decision. "It's not possible on the ship, but when I reach the destination, I will summon them there again. If you want to come, wait for me, but I can't guarantee the time." Because she didn't know how long the next boat would take. After hearing her words, these little bean people looked at Li Baining and Ren Zhangiying beside her with envy. These 2 little bean people didn't have the trouble of going offline in the middle. Li Baining was very proud. When Yang Zhao assigned a guide to the little bean people, he was determined to follow Yang Zhao. He kept hiding when he saw someone coming. He was an old hand in traveling to the world of cultivation, so he would not be stunned when he saw the world of cultivation. He would just run after someone who wanted to take them out to play. But these little bean people did not continue to pester her. They happily promised that they would definitely wait for her. In the end, they put on the appearance of a lovelorn woman to remind Yang Zhao not to be a heartless man and forget them. Although the genders of these little bean people were unknown, the expressions of each lovelorn woman were very natural and vivid. If you didn't know, you would think they all graduated from the film academy. Seeing that there were still many little bean people who did not come back, Yang Zhao did not take back the floating white cloth. It was not until the teachers of various prefectures organized the transfer that 4 or 5 little bean people came back. Even if some little bean people had seen Yang Zhao, they just smiled and waved to Yang Zhao to say hello. They had no intention of coming back, but continued to follow the guide. Some little bean people even communicated happily with the guide by waving and swiping. There was no language barrier at all. They seemed to have made temporary friends. When transferring, she put away the little bean people around her and took Li Baining and Ren Zhangiying to transfer to the next flying boat through the Rune Channel. This flying boat was the same model as the one that picked up people from the military camp before. This time, 3 flying boats came to pick up people. The 3 flying boats lined up one after another and sailed towards a small planet and then dispersed to their respective destinations. When everyone in the cabin fell to the ground with a heavy body, everyone knew that the destination had arrived. After driving for a while, after the flying boat stopped in the air, the teachers of each prefecture school did not organize the students to get off the boat, but collectively placed several large tables at the exit, with a large stone slab of 2 meters square on the table. Then, the flag of whichever prefecture school was raised above the table, and the students of that prefecture school came to the front of the table and prepared to get off the boat under the command of the teacher. Because of the distance and the crowd, Yang Zhao did not see clearly what they were busy with on the table. She hesitated for a second, whether to fly up to see the excitement. But she hesitated, but others would not hesitate, and several people had already flown. Then a teacher snorted coldly, and the people flying in the sky fell down like birds with broken wings. You are students of the prefectural school, where is your etiquette? This is a big competition. Since you arrived at Luoyang, your every move will fall into the eyes of the examiner. Be careful with your words and actions, don't you understand? The students present fell silent, and then thanked him in unison. Thank you for your guidance, sir. Chapter 207, How to Use the Gift Package. This was indeed an occasion for selecting state cadres and officials, and the etiquette and upbringing of students were quite picky. As soon as the gentleman gave the reminder, everyone else became modest and courteous to each other, not fighting or competing, and speaking to each other in a gentler manner. Yang Zhao stayed in the middle of the students of Yang Zhao Prefecture School, silently waiting for the flag to rise. Fortunately, the people in front of her moved quickly, and the people from one school left after they finished their work. It didn't take her long to wait before the flag of Yang Zhao Prefecture School was raised. The people from Yang Zhao Prefecture School lined up and walked over gracefully. There were more than a dozen tables in that row, and only 8 or 9 people were lined up in front of each table. The gentleman sat behind the table and asked the students to take out the Luoyang gift bag issued by the school. The first thing to do was to take out the 2-meter square silver gray gauze and spread it evenly on the stone slab on the table. As soon as the silver gauze was aligned, the teacher behind the table reached out and knocked on the stone slab. The stone slab glowed faintly, and a complex array was imprinted on the silver gauze a moment later. The teachers took off the silver gauze and handed it to the students. Luoyang lacks the heavenly guard. When you go out on the ship, you must input spiritual power into the silver gauze. The rune array here can keep you safe. Our competition will last for 30 days this time. This gauze can be used for 30 days, and when you enter the garrison point, you can get rid of the protection of the silver gauze. In this way, the silver gauze can be used for a longer time. Then there was the automatic water storage cup and the soil block inside. Put the soil block in the cup. Isn't this water for us to drink? This gentleman also asked Yang Zhao's question. What are you drinking? If you want to drink water, can't you summon a water ball yourself? This cup is only for the life grass. Do you have the consciousness of a cultivator? With the silver gauze on his left arm, he took a big sip of the water cup in his right hand and then stuffed the soil block in the cloth bag. The dry soil quickly became wet and turned into a piece of mud. Then the water in the cup became more and more until it reached the mouth of the bottle. This formed a pattern of water above and mud below. Suddenly, a tender white sprout emerged from the water, and it grew rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into a green grass. Yang Zhao clearly felt a fresh air rushing into his nasal cavity, and it seemed that his breathing became smoother. Oh, this grows faster than bamboo. Li Baining looked at the grass leaves sticking out of the mouth of the bottle, and couldn't help but sigh. Ren Zhangiying on the other side was also carefully looking at the plant. It really grows faster. Maybe it is affected by the spiritual energy. The two of them were guessing, and the teacher of the Fuxu next to them continued to introduce the grass. This is a life grass. It loves water and light, and can provide the air a person needs to survive. You must carry it with you. It only has a lifespan of 30 days. There is no way to extend the useful life of this thing. You must protect it well. And because their lifespan is short, if you put 2 life grasses next to each other, they will quickly bloom and bear fruit, and then die. In the end, you can't even last 30 days. Yang Zhao picked at the leaves of the life grass, and looked up to ask the gentleman who gave them. Sir, since the life grass has bloomed and borne fruit, can't we just plant it with its newly grown seeds? If the life grass wants to sprout, it must go through a year of dormancy. During this year, it will secretly store spiritual energy to prepare for the next rapid sprouting. New spiritual grass seeds cannot sprout at all. The gentleman waved his hand to the side, indicating Yang Zhao to hide aside to avoid occupying the road. Yang Zhao came to stay behind the gentleman with the young seedlings. Next to her stood a dozen students who were hanging silver yarn and holding grass. The students behind them frowned as they looked at their poses. "Sir, we can't always hold this cup. Aren't you holding the bottle cap in your hand? Put the bottle cap under the cup and send spiritual power into it so that it can fly." Everyone put the bottle cap under the cup and input some magic power. The bottle cap glowed with a blue-purple light, which slowly lifted the bottle and floated in the air. Then the blue-purple light covered the entire life grass. Li Beining looked at the bottle and asked in surprise, "Oh, why is this bottle cap this color?" Yang Zhao tried to take the hand that was protecting the life grass away. "Because the plant likes it." She slowly took 2 steps forward, and the life grass followed her 2 steps. This bottle cap has an automatic following system, and it is very sensitive. Yang Zhao pushed the cup down so that Li Beining and the others could see something strange. Li Beining and Ren Zhongying surrounded them with smiles on their faces. "This cup is so cool. Yeah, it's perfect for making tea." After all the Yang Zhao students were ready, the teacher took down the flag of Yang Zhao Prefecture School and handed it to the taciturn Yao Guangshu. "You are the champion of Yang Zhao Prefecture School. You must take the responsibility of the champion. Here is the flag of the Prefecture School." "Thank you, sir." Yao Guangshu bowed respectfully first, then took the flag. The teacher turned around and gave a lecture to the remaining more than 100 Yang Zhao students. "This competition is related to the reputation of Yang Zhao Prefecture School. I know you all have your own little abacus in your mind, but throw these little abacuses away in the competition. This time, Yao Kui Shao will lead the team. I hope everyone will play well." The teacher raised his stern eyes and scanned the Yang Zhao students present. "You should know that all your performances have been seen by the examiners. Don't ruin your future." The Yang Zhao students saluted the teacher one after another. "Yes. Thank you for your guidance, sir. Okay, you guys can get out of the cabin." Yao Guangshu sent the flag into the air and shouted loudly, "Key training stage lineup, foundation building stage lead, cushion in the middle, guard the tail, let's go." "Yes." Then more than 90 key training stage cultivators lined up in a team, and more than 20 foundation building stage guarded the front, back and middle of the team. Yao Guangshu led the team with the flag, and Yang Zhao chose to press the back. The group came to the cabin exit. There were also 2 gentlemen guarding here. They saw the arrival of the Yang Zhao students and made a stop gesture. "The competition has started from now on. The first level is to find the garrison point of Yang Zhao Fuxu by yourself. Now raise the rune formation and get out of the cabin." "Yes." They took out the silver yarn one after another and sent mana into the silver yarn. The silver yarn suddenly turned golden and then broke into runes. These runes flew up and quickly rotated around them. This seemed to be a simplified version of the rune channel between flying boats. The gentleman opened the hatch of the flying boat, and Yang Zhao and his companions finally stepped onto the land outside. "Please vote. Love you, Muar." Chapter 208. A bit cold. Although Luoyuan has the word Lu in its name, it is really desolate. There is not a single blade of grass along the way, let alone small animals like deer. Even with the light of stars, the sky is still dark, and judging from the position of the stars, it is either morning or evening. Li Beining looked up at the sky and couldn't help but complain. The sky of this planet looks a bit scary. Although the sky of the planet connected to the teleportation formation is also dark, there is a row of light sources on it, which looks quite unique. The atmosphere is too thin. It's normal. Ren Zhongying acted very calmly. He jumped on the ground to test the gravity, and he already had an idea. Why is it so cold? Just after coming out of the flying boat, the key refining stage was already shivering from the cold. It is much colder here than Lianjing, which is in the severe cold. Even Yang Zhao is a little uncomfortable and can only secretly circulate spiritual power to keep warm. She kicked the ground and found that the ground here was frozen hard, and she could also see fine ice chips mixed in the ground. Yao Guangshu put down the flag of the prefectural school and frowned at this unfamiliar place. Luoyang has a big temperature difference between day and night. Even the temperature during the day is not high. This is detailed in the Luoyang information given by the gentleman. Key training students should use the warm things quickly. These key training students hurriedly took out the warming instruments. Suddenly Yang Zhao found something wrong with the two little bean people. They seemed to be frozen white. The bodies of the little bean people seemed to be unable to adapt to this temperature. Do you want to go back or waste this pulling bean? Li Baining looked down at his white hands and found that they could no longer move freely. Go back. A bean is still quite expensive. If there is any problem with this pulling bean, he will have to spend another 3,000 yuan. He doesn't have much money. The most important thing is that at that time, he doesn't know if he can still be lucky enough to grab a place. He still wants to practice Taoism and doesn't want to be delayed because of this. Ren Zhongying didn't have any concerns and answered very straightforwardly. Okay, let's go back. Yang Zhao quickly called them to stop and asked them to tell the other little bean people online not to wait for her call. Master Yang, I can only tell them in the comment section. Li Baining was a little embarrassed. Ren Zhongying was much more confident. Comrade Yang, don't worry, I will recruit people to tell them not to wait any longer. Then the two of them turned into two beans, and Yang Zhao picked them up and stuffed them into his arms. The group of people from Yang Zhao Prefecture School got off the flying boat and gathered together to discuss how to get to the garrison point. Finally, several foundation building cultivators flew high into the sky to observe the surrounding terrain and then came down to draw a simple map together. They identified the location, discussed it, and pointed to the same direction. The memory of the foundation building cultivators is very good, and their recognition ability is naturally not much worse. Then Yao Guangshu began to assign tasks, one of which was the key training stage, which lined up in a team and moved forward on the ground using the light body technique. 7 foundation building cultivators protected them and moved forward on the ground together. 2 foundation building stage people led the team. 3 foundation building stage people supported the team in the middle. 2 foundation building stage people were at the rear, and Yao Guangshu led the team with a flag. 10 foundation building stage people flew in the air, surrounding the team in a circle, and the remaining 5 foundation building stage people flew to the front of the team to get information. The students of each prefecture school were arranged in a similar formation, and then they each found a direction to their destination. Humph. It was unknown whether Yao Guangshu did it on purpose, but he arranged Yang Zhao and Lin Sheng together to cover the rear of the team on the ground. Lin Sheng snorted coldly when he saw her. The experience of the failed fight a few days ago was still vivid in his mind, so Lin Sheng naturally would not give Yang Zhao a good face. Yang Zhao was too lazy to pay attention to him. This old man's temper could be played with whoever he wanted. Anyway, she would not accept it. The two people moved forward in silence, without saying a word along the way. The light body technique of the key training period was also very fast, but their spiritual power reserves were insufficient, so they got tired easily. There were 3 teams walking in the same direction as them. It seemed that the garrisons between the 3 schools were quite close. But even so, the students from the 3 schools ignored each other and only wanted to get a good result in the competition. Although the students from the 3 schools did not want to pay attention to each other, they kept the same speed. The foundation building stage in the sky also covered each other as they moved forward. After they walked for about half an incense stick of time, everyone stopped to rest together and then set off together. After another half an hour, Yang Zhao and his team finally saw an extremely familiar landmark, and there was a military flag hanging on the top of the mountain. It's great that a garrison is just over the hill ahead. I don't know what kind of food the garrison has prepared for us. I feel hungry again now. That's right, I'm hungry now too. Several key training stage students complained with a smile on their faces, laughing heartlessly. Yao Guangshu waved the flag and asked the team to rest for a while. Then he stood up and went straight to the garrison of Yang Zhao Prefecture School. This was a small camp, covered with a black metal shell, which looked like a huge lunchbox from a distance. If Yang Zhao and his team wanted to enter the garrison, they had to take out their Yang Zhao Prefecture School ID cards and let them in. After they had walked in, once they entered, everyone felt that the temperature here was much higher than outside. The air was warm, and they saw a few green plants. The key training period, who were shivering with cold just now put away all the warm things on their bodies. Then everyone gathered their spiritual power, and the rune array covering their bodies slowly stopped. They automatically piled up in one place, and turned into a 2-meter square silver grey gauze. Yang Zhao picked up the silver gauze, and stuffed it into his Kyankan bag. Now there was only one soldier left at the garrison. He went straight to Yao Guangshu, who was holding the flag of Yang Zhao Prefecture School, and handed him the specific task list for the final exam. I will stay here with you and supervise the competition you are currently conducting. The examiners can see everything you say and do, so you must behave yourself well. Finally, safety comes first. No matter how peaceful this place is, it has its bad side, so don't go out alone to avoid accidents. After the soldier explained everything, he stood aside and didn't say anything. Yao Guangshu flipped through the booklet in his hand, his eyebrows furrowed tightly, and it was obvious that those tasks were probably a bit troublesome. He looked at it carefully for a long time and asked the soldier, "Is this the only booklet among these?" Chapter 209, Drama. The soldier directly brought a large box from the side. When he opened the box, he could see a box full of dark black stones. You can send the task to the messenger magic weapon. Each of these magic weapons can be used to communicate with each other during the competition. Those used outside cannot be used here. Everyone looked at each other. Yao Guangshu took one first, and the others followed him and took one. Yang Zhao picked up one, and found that the thing was warm to the touch. The texture was warm, and it was slightly translucent. She had seen others use similar things, but she had nothing to contact here, so she never thought about buying one. She took it in her hand and looked around, and input spiritual power into it, but there was still no movement. Humph, a country bumpkin is a country bumpkin, with no knowledge, and can't use good things. Lin Sheng looked at her for a long time without understanding how to use this thing, and couldn't help but be sarcastic next to her. His voice was not small, and in an instant, the eyes of the whole hall were focused on Yang Zhao, and some people whispered and sneered beside him. Yang Zhao glanced at him sideways, and didn't intend to suffer this loss. "Are you really a man? You're a bitch and mean-spirited." PFFT. In the hall, the sound of suppressed laughter got louder. You. Lin Sheng's eyes widened with anger, and he walked over in 2 or 3 steps, wanting to argue with her. Yang Zhao lowered his head and continued to fiddle with the messenger in his hand, not bothering to pay attention to him. "Now is the big competition. Are you sure you want to get entangled with me?" Upon hearing her words, people from both sides hurried up to stop Lin Sheng. "Brother Lin, for such a person, it's not worth it. Yes, you are a jade bottle, and she is rubble. Why would you fight with her?" A foundation building cultivator in a blue robe pushed out of the crowd and looked at Yang Zhao with a meaningful smile on his face. "As for outer sect cultivators like her, we are not unaware of it, especially since she is a female cultivator. What kind of dirty and rotten have we not seen?" Yang Zhao finally opened the messenger and began to study how to play it. Hearing that person's mouth was not controlled, he said something coldly beside him. "Etiquette and upbringing are also part of the competition. Who are you? Tell me your name." "You." The monk's face darkened. He turned his head and stared at the silent soldier next to him, and suddenly laughed again. "Ha ha ha, I'm Liu Shao. Fellow Daoist Yang, don't get me wrong. I wasn't talking about you just now. You are a student of our Yang Zhao Prefecture School. How can those outer sect monks compare with you?" "Yeah." Yang Zhao nodded indifferently and continued to play his own game. Liu Shao's eyes darkened again. "You. I say, fellow Daoist Yang, what do you mean by this?" "It doesn't mean anything. I'm too lazy to argue with you. Today is the first day of the competition. I'll hold back my temper to avoid lowering the examiner's overall impression of Yang Zhao Academy. As for the art of language, although Yang Zhao is not proficient in it, he can say a few words." Now, the people around them looked at Liu Shao and Lin Sheng with a strange look, and there was a hint of blame. When a person is a student, it is normal for outsiders to criticize his school and his parents. Who hasn't heard the online rumor? A student from Tsinghua University can't tie his shoelaces, so his mother came to work as a nanny when he went to college. As for the name of the college student, no one remembered it in the end, but many people remembered the joke of high scores but low ability. In those years, students from Tsinghua University didn't like to go online. Yao Guangshu, who was holding a task list next to him, looked unhappy when Lin Sheng started to mock Yang Zhao. As the leader of Yang Zhao Academy, the face of Yang Zhao Academy is his face. The reason why these people are so outspoken is that there is no one in the audience who makes them afraid. In a word, they don't take him, the leader, seriously. Originally, the reputation of the leader of the prefecture school should be higher than that of the teacher among the students, because he has suppressed his peers in the entire prefecture, and the cultivation resources he has obtained will also suppress these peers, and in the long years to come, he is likely to continue to suppress them. Cultivators have always been a group where the strong get stronger and the weak get weaker. Many opportunities are prepared for the strong, and even if the weak encounter them, they can't take them. This time he was the champion and the leader of the team, and the harmony of the team was also an invisible part of his competition. In the eyes of those examiners, a general who could not control his soldiers was definitely not a good general. Dao Aoyang is righteous. Yao Guangshu clasped his fists towards Yang Zhao. We are all from Yang Zhao Prefecture School. I hope that everyone will work together for this competition. Otherwise, it would be fine if you ruin yourself, but it would ruin Yang Zhao Prefecture School. He did not finish the following words, but the fierceness in his eyes could not be concealed. Although Liu Xiao's face was gloomy, he shut up when he saw Yao Guangshu's unfriendly expression. But Lin Sheng on the side was not afraid of this champion Yao. Some people should not say that they are from our prefecture school all the time. I don't understand why the last champion of Yang Zhao Academy was Brother Lin. This was the first time Yang Zhao heard this news, but looking at Lin Sheng, she also had some doubts about why he was the last champion of Yang Zhao Prefecture School. After all, his cultivation and his temper really couldn't support that position. Yao Guangxiu's words made Lin Sheng's cheeks flush. He raised his foot and wanted to rush over, but was stopped by the people behind him. Brother Lin, do you really want to ruin our Yang Zhao Academy's competition? Brother Lin, calm down. If you have anything to say, we can talk about it when we get back. Okay, the far sense here. Let's look at the tasks first. A strange female voice sounded from behind Yang Zhao. The space seemed to be paused. The students in the entire hall stopped making noises and said respectfully in unison, "Yes, Sister Lin." Only Yang Zhao, Yao Guangxiu and Lin Sheng were left who did not join the ranks. Moreover, the anger on Lin Sheng's face was even stronger, and there was also a bit of exasperation in it. "You are." Lin Sheng was silent before he could finish half of the sentence. He opened and closed his mouth, but could not make any sound. This time, he seemed to be swept by anger and he stretched out his hand to sacrifice the magic sword. But when he was halfway through the action, he froze and could not move. Oh, Yang Zhao turned around and saw the invisible leader who could suppress all the students. This person looked a bit like Lin Sheng. She was shorter than Yang Zhao, wearing a green cloth dress, and her hands were covered with calluses. At this time, she was sitting on a chair that she had brought from somewhere, looking at Lin Sheng with a gloomy expression, and casually pointed at Liu Xiao next to her. "If you keep an eye on him, I will consider it as your redemption. If you don't, I will control your mouth. I don't want anything to go wrong in this competition." This time Liu Xiao promised solemnly, "Yes, Senior Sister Lin, I was reckless this time. Please vote." The last day. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210. The competition is quite strange. Yang Zhao was overwhelmed by the drama. She originally thought that this matter was directed at her, but now it seems that she is just a marginal figure, a fish in the pond that was affected. The relationship between the characters is really complicated. Lin Sheng and the senior sister Lin have the same surname, and the relationship between the two is not very good. Yao Guangshu said that Lin Sheng was the champion of the previous Yang Zhao Prefecture school, but the current situation is very clear that this senior sister Lin is the real champion of Yang Zhao Academy. But this real champion does not have an officially recognized identity, and Liu Xiao's behavior is more direct. Rather than maliciously mocking Yang Zhao, it is better to say that he is provoking Yang Zhao's emotions and letting her make a big deal with the purpose of causing trouble for Yao Guangshu. After all, the evaluation in the competition is not important to Yang Zhao at all. She came here to gain experience. No matter how well she performs, it is impossible for her, a person from another world, to enjoy many bonuses of the prefectural school competition. She experienced this kind of thing once a few months ago. The last time Yang Zhao fought for the Soul Land of a poor clan, she was kicked out just after she established her foundation. She was really not given any chance to fight for the Soul Land. So among all the students here, Yang Zhao was the least afraid of making trouble, and when students made trouble, the one who was most affected was Yao Kishao. Yao Guangshu probably didn't expect such a turn of events. He looked at senior sister Lin with a bit of surprise and understanding. I wonder if this senior sister Lin. Senior sister Lin left her chair and stood up to show respect. My name is Lin Sishang, and Yao Kishao doesn't need to call me senior sister. You are the senior brother of Yang Zhao Academy. This sentence made Yao Guangshu's face look much better. Then Lin Sishang glanced at Liu Xiao and winked at Yang Zhao. Liu Xiao understood and walked to Yang Zhao with a serious face. Friend Yang, I was offended just now. You can beat me or punish me as you like. Yang Zhao's eyes swept over these people. This time, she finally knew what a champion was. Ha 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 ha, you really broadened my horizons this time. Ha 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 ha. To be honest, this was the first time she had encountered someone playing tricks in front of her until she was in her 20s and playing tricks for others at the expense of himself. It really opened her eyes. However, Liu Xiao had a calm and gentle look, which was very different from his harsh and hypocritical face just now. Seeing that Yang Zhao was only concerned with his own smile and ignored him, he was not angry. He just apologized again and retreated to Lin Sheng, who was standing stiffly in the same place. Yao Guangshu next to him accepted this matter very well. He didn't care about others anymore and went directly to find Lin Sishang. I have sent the task list to the messenger artifact. Fellow Daoist Lin, please see who is suitable for these tasks. Lin Sishang raised his hand and tapped the messenger artifact. A virtual screen unfolded. She glanced at it and frowned. Everyone, take a look at the tasks. This competition is a bit strange. Yang Zhao took 2 deep breaths, suppressed the smile on her face, and opened the messenger magic weapon like Sister Lin. She wanted to take a look at these tasks. Why did the 2 champions say that this competition was strange? With a quick glance, she found that the tasks above were all about how to operate a garrison. It introduced the time when the cultivators could be active in Luoyang. For the cultivators in the key refining stage, they could leave the garrison for a maximum of 2 hours a day. It was too cold at other times. The time for the cultivators in the foundation establishment stage to go out was longer. Luoyang has no atmosphere and is far away from the main star, so the temperature difference between day and night is very large, and it is very cold at night. The tasks on the task list are relatively routine and troublesome. For example, students have to prepare their own food and refine pills. Even if no one eats them, they have to prepare them according to the specifications. For example, maintaining the formations and equipment of the garrison and the mines in my occupied area is the task of an inspector. You not only have to check, but also repair. For example, daily patrols of the borders and mines in my occupied area to prevent any accidents. For example, we need to forge standard weapons here. Before Yang Zhao found out what was strange, other students were already discussing quietly. This doesn't look like a competition at all. I remember that the last competition was a collective beast hunting, and the one before that was a separate competition. That's right. In the past, competitions have always pursued top strength. Whether it's a competition, refining weapons, or arranging formations, the questions are all tricky, but this time the competition is all about basic things. How can such simple things be compared to a higher level? Or is there an invisible test question? Maybe there are big secrets hidden in Luoyuan waiting for us to uncover. Why is there still someone raising a flag here? Listening to their discussion, Yang Zhao slowly understood where this was strange. If the past was a high-end game of passionate collisions between the red and blue teams, frequent strategies, and capturing Man Guangxi alive, then this time it's just guarding a border post. You just need to honestly abide by the discipline. You don't need to come up with strategies and rarely let you use your combat power. As long as it is a daily task, it has the disadvantages of being trivial and time consuming. It can be seen from their discussion that these cultivators who are proud of their status as a prefecture school look down on these daily tasks. The discussion became louder and louder, but generally speaking, they all tended to have hidden tasks. Yao Guangshu and Lin Zishang looked at each other silently and seemed to have reached a consensus. Then, Yao Guangshu spoke. Anyway, this time the tasks on the task list will be the main focus. I hope everyone will complete the tasks carefully. In addition to special tasks such as refining equipment and setting up formations, key training cultivators who want to do can sign up in the messenger magic tool. I will use your registration as a reference for adjusting the task personnel. Foundation building cultivators will be arranged separately every day. After Yao Guangshu finished speaking, Lin Zishang did not come out to interrupt and clearly expressed her attitude of supporting Yao Guangshu. Seeing this situation, the students in the key training period began to discuss. I want to do the task of going out to explore the enemy. I want to do the task of exploring the mine. It seems that these tasks that can discover secrets are more popular, while other tasks are mostly complained about. It's more difficult for me. My main subject is refining weapons, but what's the point of refining standard weapons? It's just a waste of time. I'd rather plant. I've been studying advanced spiritual plants. Who has ever planted something like Yang Mei? I'm better at this. I'm mainly studying formations. The formations at the Luoyuan garrison are quite advanced. When I practice, I can show off my skills in front of the examiner. What the hell is this asking me to take care of a camel beast? Do I, a student from the prefecture, need to take care of a camel beast? I'm still more than 100 away from being on the list. I hope I can be on it in March. And today, all 3 chapters are complete. Don't wait for me tonight. Let me relax. Tomorrow I'll be a brave man again. Backquote. Chapter 211. Reasons. After everyone had read the tasks, Yao Guangshu asked everyone to submit a summary of their strengths, so that he could adjust the tasks. In addition to the martial arts value, Yang Zhao thought for a long time, and wrote in arithmetic. Yao Guangshu looked at her information in his hand, and raised his eyebrows. Are you good at arithmetic? His tone was full of suspicion. In their eyes, outer sect monks are illiterates who have not received 9 years of compulsory education, and arithmetic requires both talent and teachers. And teachers are the most difficult to obtain. His words attracted the attention of the people in the hall. Now Yang Zhao and Yao Guangshu are both celebrities in Yang Zhao Prefecture School, not to mention that there is a Lin Zishang sitting next to them. Any movement in this place can attract everyone's attention. Yang Zhao is confident in her arithmetic level. Don't worry, Yao Kishao. A few months ago, I coached a student to pass the entrance examination to Huanggang Prefecture School. This is a fact, and she is not afraid of difficult tasks coming to her later. Even if she can't do it well in the end, she can still use the Kyanji beans to shake people. Yao Guangxiu still had some suspicion in his eyes, but he wrote it down verbatim. As for whether he believed it or not, no one knew. Seeing that he had registered, Yang Zhao withdrew from the crowd. When she turned around, she saw Lin Sheng, who was alone and fixed there. Liu Shao, who was supposed to watch him, was now going to Yao Guangxiu to submit his special skills and prepare for the competition. Yang Zhao circled around Lin Sheng with interest. She was still not sure whether this person was fixed by Lin Zishang, but it can be seen that the person who cast the immobilization spell must have a higher level of cultivation than Lin Sheng. Are you related to Lin Keshao? You used tricks to take her place as the leader. Lin Sheng stared at Yang Zhao, who was circling around him with blazing eyes. If he could move, he would have wanted to open his mouth and bite her twice. Why are you so fierce? This is not what I said. Anyone with eyes can see it. This time, Lin Sheng's tears came out. Tears slowly slid down his cheeks. His eyes were slightly red, as if he was bullied by Yang Zhao. Of course, it is also possible that he was pinned down for a long time and could not move his eyelids, so he felt sore. But no matter what the reason for his tears, he started crying as soon as Yang Zhao came over. Who would not think that she was taking advantage of others and bullying them? Yang Zhao looked around and saw that several people were already pointing fingers at this place. She quickly grabbed Lin Sheng's collar and wiped the tears off his face, lowering her voice to comfort him. Don't cry, I just asked you out of curiosity, I don't mean anything else. If you are like this, I will go and beg senior sister Lin to let you go. If you don't say anything, I will take it as your consent. How could Lin Sheng speak with his mouth sealed? Another tear fell. Seeing that the other party did not object, she put down the collar in her hand, turned around and squeezed next to senior sister Lin, pointing at Lin Sheng. Sister Lin, please let him go. We are still in the competition. He is at the foundation building stage, a rare high-end combat force in Yang Zhao Prefecture. Lin Sheng glanced at Yang Zhao lightly. Liu Shao, keep an eye on Lin Sheng. Yes, sister. Liu Shao, who was talking about the task with others nearby, suddenly came to the side of Lin Sheng, who was standing stiffly. When he arrived there, Lin Sheng trembled all over and his stiff body softened. Lin Sheng opened and closed his mouth, but still no sound came out. He took out the magic sword and wanted to rush forward, but was hugged by Liu Shao next to him. Brother Lin, the competition is the most important. It is related to your future path. Maybe your father and mother are watching you in Yang Zhao Prefecture now. Let's take a look at the task first. This competition is just in the right time for Brother Lin to make a breakthrough. Only if you get good results in the competition can you have the possibility of forming a pill. Brother Lin, don't make mistakes on your path. A few words made Lin Sheng relax, and he pointed at his mouth angrily. Okay, I'll go ask senior sister Lin. Seeing that Liu Shao was able to appease people with just a few words, Yang Zhao could only admire him very much. Later, she learned about the bloody love-hate relationship between Lin Sheng and Lin Sheng. To put it simply, Lin Sheng's father cheated on his wife and had an illegitimate daughter, Lin Sheng, who was 1 or 2 months older than Lin Sheng. This was not a glorious thing. Lin Sheng kept it a secret from his family and outsiders. Lin Sheng's mother was perceptive and noticed it early. She said that, as long as the illegitimate daughter was not allowed to wander around in front of her, she would pretend that nothing happened. But something unexpected happened. Within a few years, the young Lin Sheng showed a super high talent for cultivation, which was enough to cover up the stain of her origin and attract people. Things in the future were very simple. Lin's father took the child home and ranked her in the family tree. She actually ranked the eldest because she was 1 or 2 months older. Lin Sheng, the eldest son of the Lin family, became the second son and was suppressed by an illegitimate daughter. This was unacceptable to Lin Sheng, who had always been favored, and the two of them had a grudge. What made the Lin family more relieved was that Lin Sheng had a relatively neutral and peaceful personality. She was neither inferior to her family background nor proud of her talent. Every time she met Lin Sheng and competed with her, she would give in a few points. This is why Lin Sheng was able to become the leader of Yang Zhao Prefecture School. This is also the reason why the gentlemen of Yang Zhao Prefecture School did not panic when they changed their generals before the big competition. There was a lot of noise in the hall for a long time, and these tasks were roughly distributed after discussion between Yao Guangshu and Lin Sheng. There was a large bronze mirror hanging on the wall of the hall on the first floor. This thing could be connected to the messenger magic weapon. Yao Guangshu hung the task list on it, and below the task were the names of the people participating in the task. If there were any changes, they would be marked in red. At this time, it was already dark outside the garrison. After finishing their business, everyone began to visit the garrison and find a place to rest. The entire garrison has a total of 8 floors, 2 floors above ground and 6 floors underground. The area is not small. The first floor above ground has a large assembly hall, a restaurant and kitchen, and a utility room. There are several sentry observation points, 2 armories and more than 10 dormitories on the second floor above ground. According to the soldiers, the dormitories on the second floor must be occupied to deal with sudden changes. They also opened the armory and took a look. It was empty and had to wait for the candidates to fill it up. The area underground is much larger than that on the ground. The first and second floors are soldiers' dormitories and washing places. There are single rooms and multi-person rooms. There are also several rooms for soldiers on the second floor. The third and fourth floors underground are planting areas where various plants are planted. The formation provides the best growth environment for plants, and the formation center of the entire garrison is set on the fourth floor. The fifth floor underground is a place for soldiers to train, relax and entertain. There is a library and an illusion room, which provides a real illusion for soldiers to play. The last floor is a variety of simple alchemy rooms, refining rooms, etc. It is said that the reason for this arrangement is to ensure the safety of the garrison. Chapter 212. Entry point. There was no dinner, and everyone ate the bigu pills in their hands. Yang Zhao found a single room on the second floor of the ground to move in. She carefully checked the room, and then locked the door with peace of mind. There was no extra furniture in the dormitory, only a bed and a table, and a sundial that displayed the time was hung on the wall. This sundial was divided into two sides, the yin and yang. The yang side represented the day, and the yin side represented the night, and now the pointer of the sundial had entered the yin side. Yang Zhao focused on the table in the room. According to the soldiers, this table was used to charge the messenger. Every time the soldiers went to bed, they had to put the messenger on the table to charge it, so that when they were on a mission, the messenger would not be unable to use it due to lack of energy. She settled her life grass and messenger, and then took out other solar chargers to charge her mobile phone. Her mobile phone started recording videos as soon as she left home this morning, and it had run out of power long ago. Now she has a total of 4 solar chargers in her hand, but this is not unsafe. The lighting conditions on this planet are not very good, and the charging efficiency is probably not very good. I don't know if the summoning technique can charge the solar power bank, but no matter what, I can try it now. After waiting for a while, she turned on her phone and took out the video she recorded this time and started editing it. After editing and adding simple text, she posted the video on the online platform with the title, Flying Boat Journey. At the end of the video, she explained to those fans, because this planet is too cold, she had promised to summon those people to come and see the new planet, but she broke the promise. Then she took out the power bank that had no power, unfolded the solar panel, and placed it directly under the summoning technique tree. She had decided not to extinguish this summoning technique at night, and just saw if the power bank could charge it. After finishing everything, she took out a small disinfection instrument, disinfected all the bedding in the room, and then lay down in it and fell asleep. She slept until she was unconscious, and finally, she was awakened by the reminder sound of the messenger instrument. She took out her phone and found that she had slept for more than 7 hours. But when she got up and opened the window, it was still pitch black outside, not feeling like morning at all. She looked at the sundial and found that the pointer was still some distance away from the shadow side. But it was understandable. Lu Yuan's information had introduced that the day and night here were very long, probably because the planet rotated slowly. She took out 2 bigu pills and stuffed them into her mouth, put away the power bank on the ground, turned on the mobile phone video and installed it, and then took the life grass to the first floor. At this time, the hall was already full of students from Yang Zhao Prefecture. Yao Guangshu looked at the information in his hand and began to assign today's tasks. Because it was still night and the temperature outside was too low, it was not suitable for the key training period to go out on missions. Now the main tasks are all carried out at the garrison point. For example, the magic weapon pills assigned by the refining task, and the plants on the -3rd and -4th floors. These are all relatively tedious things, because many things have not been handled well, and they need to start from scratch bit by bit. For example, the metal for refining is not refined, and the plants in the planting area need to be inspected one by one. Yang Zhao looked at the bitterness on those people's faces, and an idea was turning in his mind. When the crowd dispersed, she approached Yao Guangshu to test him. Yao Kishao, I wonder if we can use the Kyanji beans here? What do you want to do? This is a big competition. You can't attract so many Kyanji beans to mess up here. Obviously, Yao Guangxu knew Yang Zhao's performance in the crossing ship, and this time he saw her asking, so he deliberately criticized her. Yang Zhao smiled and was not angry. Didn't Yao Kishao ask me to go to the third underground floor to clean up the dead plants? I want Kyanji Beans to do such a simple thing. The main reason was that she didn't have any special skills, so Yao Guangxu specially assigned her some simple tasks to do. Are your Kyanji Beans willing to help you do these tedious things? Yang Zhao stretched out her hand and made a gesture of taking out money. I will give them money. I will pay them wages. These simple things. Of course they are willing to help me do it, and I'm not really here for the big competition. Her main task is to act as a fighting force, either to compete for the first place or to protect these students of Yang Zhao Prefecture School. Otherwise, Mr. Lee from Yang Zhao Prefecture School would not have strongly recommended the defensive magic weapon, Feng Lingsu, to her. Yao Guangxu thought about it for a while, fiddled with the messenger magic weapon for a while, and then agreed to her request. The cultivators all have sharp eyes, and Yang Zhao is no exception. She saw who Yao Guangxu was contacting at a glance. It's just a small matter. Do you still need to ask senior sister Lin? Yao Guangxu's face was calm. I didn't officially beat her before the competition, and now I can only respect her status. Everything is for the normal progress of the competition. It seems that he is very familiar with the rules of the game in the prefecture school. Yang Zhao said goodbye to the other party, went back to the third underground floor to record a short video, and then went back to his room and sent the video to Guo Fuminamum Kaiang. Yang Zhao, I want to find some people to clean up this plantation. I wonder if there are any interested people on your side. Guo Fumin Kaiang, of course there are. You can call anyone in 30 minutes. Just tell them how to clean up this land. Yang Zhao, okay. She took out many small boxes from her Kyankan bag. These small boxes were filled with traction beans. He marked each box with a pen. Some were written with energy, and some were written with force. The reason for doing this was to roughly distinguish these traction beans. After all, she couldn't tell the person opposite the bean, so she could only roughly classify them. Finally, she picked out 5 traction beans from a box with plants written on it, put the other boxes back, and took these 5 beans to the third underground floor. She waited here for the time to come, and then input spiritual power into the beans to call them back. 5 little bean people popped their heads out of the bushes, looking at Yang Zhao happily, and then looking at the large plantation, each with shining eyes, wishing they could stick their eyes to see clearly. I didn't expect that I would be the last one to come. I need to change my luck now. Don't say that. Be careful of getting beaten when you go back. One of the little bean people should be older. He looked at the plants with nostalgia, but still walked towards Yang Zhao Crowley. Comrade Yang, if you have anything for us to do, just ask. We are here to assist you in your work. Yang Zhao squatted down and aligned his eyes with him. My task this time is to clean up the dead plants. Chapter 213. Advertising sign. It was the first time for Yang Zhao to take care of plants. She did not dare to do it on her own. She spent money to hire a teacher, Wang Zhu, during the foundation building period of tidying up the planting area. Wang Zhu was different from Yang Zhao, who came to the planting area to spend his days. He was seriously studying spiritual plants. For example, the first thing he did when he saw Yang Zhao was to warn her not to bring the life grass to the planting area. There are many plants in the planting area that are competitors of the life grass. If you bring it in here, it will affect its lifespan. He pointed to a small tree next to Yang Zhao. Yang Zhao lowered her eyes and looked carefully. She found that there was a thin vine wrapped around the small tree, and the vine stretched out a slender vine, which was trembling and clinging to the place where the life grass floated. Yang Zhao pushed the cup of water containing the life grass away. After a few seconds, the slender vine trembled and changed direction. Thank you for your reminder, fellow Taoist. I will put the life grass back in my room. She went upstairs to put the life grass back in the room, and came back with the little bean man to learn how to take care of the planting area with Wang Zhu. Wang Zhu was a little puzzled by Yang Zhao's actions. Dao Yang, you need help from outside forces for your first mission? Dao Wang, you know that I'm originally an outsider cultivator, and this competition does not have much constraint on me. Yang Zhao smiled slightly. Besides, you can see from the content of this competition that the essence of these contents is to let us familiarize ourselves with the daily operation of the garrison. If one day I really go to the battlefield, with my cultivation level, it is impossible for me to turn the soil and pull weeds here. Wang Zhu nodded thoughtfully. Dao Yang is right. Then will you follow me to familiarize yourself with these vegetation? Yang Zhao, of course I have to learn. I cannot pull them out by myself, but I must know how to pull them out. Then Wang Zhu was surrounded by the little bean people, and began to instruct them how to distinguish in the planting field. Yang Zhao's main task was to help translate some simple knowledge points taught by teacher Wang Zhu. Although these little bean people were learning oral language in this area, self-study and face-to-face communication are different. Yang Zhao did not expect that there would be so many precautions just to clean up the planting field. For example, some grasses withered, but not really withered, and some trees had more problems the more luxuriant they were. Some could not bloom, and died when they bloomed. Some had to grow on trees, and fell to the ground and became disasters. The little bean people listened and started to argue. If they hadn't had paper and pen in their hands, they would have even thought of writing everything down in their notebooks. Moreover, they would draw inferences from one example and raise some issues that Wang Zhu had overlooked. Wang Zhu was very satisfied with the learning speed of these little bean people. Originally, the area that Yao Guangshu assigned to Yang Zhao to clean up was not large, and the assigned tasks were also simple. He finished teaching the precautions in a short while, took the silver, and returned to his own jurisdiction. After sending Wang Zhu away, Yang Zhao called the little bean people together, and pointed at the other people who were busy in the planting field with a smile. See? Those are all our customers. The better you perform, the more people will want to be lazy and hire you. My work in this planting field is not fixed. Maybe I will have a new external task in a few hours. If you want to stay here longer. One of the little bean people took over Yang Zhao's words solemnly. Comrade Yang, don't worry. We know what to do. Yang Zhao pointed to a vacant lot next to him and said, then you guys work hard. I'll go over there and put up a billboard for you. The 5 little bean people nodded excitedly and began to tidy up the planting land with passion. Yang Zhao walked to the vacant lot next to him and sat cross-legged. He calmed his mind and put a foundation building pill into his mouth. As soon as a pill was swallowed, the familiar nameless fire rose in the meridians and burned more and more vigorously. Fortunately, she was used to it. Yang Zhao endured the pain and began to stir the spiritual energy to practice the 3 pure ones and true Yang meridian. After a while, the spiritual energy began to gather around her. Slowly, the spiritual energy gathered more and more, the speed of flow became faster and faster, and the scope of influence became larger and larger. At the beginning, no one paid attention to this matter. Everyone's attention was focused on their own small piece of land, and they had no energy to care about others. But as time passed, the scope of the spiritual energy became larger and larger, and more people noticed the movement on Yang Zhao's side. They were surprised at Yang Zhao's training speed, and also disdained her lazy behavior. Really, why does such a lazy person come to participate in the competition? It's really a waste of quota. What's the big deal? She is in the foundation building stage, which is different from us who are in the key training stage. What's the big deal about the foundation building stage? If I had practiced hard, I would have built a foundation long ago. Although these people said hard, their eyes still unconsciously glanced over here. When they found that she was very absorbed in her practice and did not react to their gazes, they looked at her more openly. Gradually, some people pretended to pass by Yang Zhao's planting land casually, took a look at the work of the little bean people, and gathered together to whisper. I didn't expect these little beans to be so careful and have good memory. Where did he find so many people? Didn't you hear what they said? They were paid. They are paid too. Some mortals can't get rid of the word stupid, no matter how I teach them, as if their brains are born unable to turn. Mortals who don't study much are like this. If I had these little bean people, I wouldn't have to waste time pulling weeds here. Is this kind of work useful for us cultivators? But this is a big competition. You dare to be lazy? These key training cultivators still hesitated about hiring people. to help them complete the task. But the two foundation building cultivators on the same level didn't have so many concerns, and they all came over. Especially Yang Zhao stood by and watched the little beam people work, and from time to time he would give a word or two of advice. Seeing that the little beam people didn't understand his language, he would personally demonstrate one or two. When Yang Zhao exhaled and finished his work, Yang Zhao came over. "Fellow Daoist Yang, I have an unwelcome request. Can you lend me some of these pulling machine beans? Don't worry, I can give you money." Yang Zhao raised his eyebrows slightly. "Fellow Daoist Wang, are you not worried about the competition?" Yang Zhao smiled. I went back and thought about fellow Daoist Yang's speculation about the competition. I deeply feel that what he said makes sense. I have already established my foundation. Could it be that someone really wants me to come and pull weeds? That's exactly the reason. A crisp and pleasant female voice interrupted. They turned around and saw that it was another cultivator in the foundation building stage who was assigned to the third floor with them. "Fellow Daoist Yang, I know you have a lot of pulling machine beans. Find a smart one and give me a few so that my dress won't be stained with mud." Chapter 214. The first team of migrant workers. The female cultivator who came later was wearing a light yellow dress. She had a pretty face and a beautiful figure, but the dirt on the soles of her shoes was a bit of a spoiler. Yang Zhao and Yang Zhao exchanged greetings with each other. "My Taoist friends, I just said that casually. Can you and I be the same? I really can't make further progress by relying on the competition, so I came up with this idea. You are of Orthodox origin, the competition." The female cultivator pinched a cleaning spell to clean the dirt off her shoes. "What's wrong with the competition? Only the lowest servants in my family are doing hard labor. Just tell me how much silver you want to charge, and you don't have to worry about other things." Seeing her firm attitude, Yang Zhao stopped trying to persuade her. "Silver is easy to talk about. You only need to give me the cost of one traction bean, but you have to pay some wages to these traction bean transformed bean people. That's easy to talk about. I will give you as much silver as you want, and I will never let them down. Do you have any other requirements?" This female cultivator seemed to have some wealth and had a casual attitude towards silver. Yang Zhao took out the box with the word plant written on it from Kyankan and opened it, which was full of Kyanji beans. "What can I ask for?" I negotiated with them for 5 taels of silver a month, which is the price in Linjing. But you have to teach them what you want them to do first. They don't know these things by nature. If you don't believe me, ask Wang Dao. That's what happened. These 5 Kyanji beans are what I just taught them. But they are really smart. They should all be educated people. They can understand what I mean, and it's not difficult to communicate. Of course, Yang Zhao smiled as she looked at the box in her hand. The Kyanji beans in this box probably have higher academic qualifications than her. They all pass the exams since childhood. Whether it is comprehension, memory, or execution ability, they are beyond the level of ordinary people. Only such people can be selected into the first batch of Kyanji beans in her box. Dao can pick a few by yourself. If you are not satisfied, you can return them to me, and I will give you another one. How about it? Yang Zhao pushed the box forward, indicating that the female cultivator should choose by herself. "You don't need to make up for this. If I really meet such a dull person, I will just send him away with my temper. Who has the patience to talk to such a stupid person? These bean people know our language, right? Everyday language is fine, but they may not be familiar with special language." Hearing Yang Zhao say this, Yang Zhao beside him also interjected. "They don't know much about the common language in our cultivation world, but ordinary people are like this." The female cultivator picked and chose in Yang Zhao's box, picked out 10 relatively round and beautiful ones, and put them away, and took out 10 taels of silver to give to Yang Zhao. "You said I will pay them wages, so will this wage be paid at the end of the month?" Yang Zhao did not refuse, and took the silver, and stuffed it into his arms. "Of course, we will have a big competition for a month. You can pay it after the competition. Anyway, the purpose of these little bean people coming here is not for money. They want all kinds of knowledge in the cultivation world. Even if it is the knowledge of knowing basic plants and distinguishing their living conditions. Okay, I'll try 10 beans first. I'm a smart man, so I'll hire some more from you. Wang Zhu over there also picked out 10 beans from her box. He didn't choose the beans based on their appearance, but just grabbed a handful. The area of the planting land that Wang Zhu and the female cultivator were responsible for was much larger than Yang Zhao's. The entire 3-story planting land was nearly 4 or 5 acres, and the two of them together occupied one half, and the rest was distributed to other key training cultivators. And because they both focused on spiritual value, that piece of planting land was their main daily task, and they had to take care of it every day. Wang Zhu stuffed the beans into a small cloth bag, handed the silver to Yang Zhao, and looked at the 5 little bean men in the field that were almost finished, and laughed. In addition to these 10 beans, give me your 5 too. After all, you might be doing something later, and I've taught this little bean man for a long time and I have feelings for him. The female cultivator next to him who was packing beans also reacted. Yes, the 5 little bean people in your hand have all been taught by senior brother Wang. If you bring one back to me and let him teach me these little bean people, wouldn't I be able to save a lot of effort? This is not a difficult task, Yang Zhao readily agreed. Okay, after I finish my task today, you can take them directly if you need them. As for how to distribute them, you two can discuss it. Yang Zhao looked at the two with a smile. But I have to say something ugly in advance. The 5 of them have studied with brother Wang for too short a time. There must be a lot of things they don't know. If you want them to be teachers for others, you can't get angry if something goes wrong, and you can't beat or scold these little bean people. The female cultivator was straightforward. Look at what you said. Now it's the time for the big competition. How can I let them do my big competition task alone? I must keep an eye on them all the time. If something really goes wrong, it's my fault. Wang Zhu also agreed with the female cultivator's opinion. That's why we are different from fellow Daoist Yang. Fellow Daoist Yang can practice beside him without worry, but we can't. Then, he turned to look at the female cultivator. Junior sister son, I taught these 5 little bean people. How about I take 3, and you take 2? Originally, junior sister son only wanted to take 1 back, but now there is 1 more, so how could she not be willing? Junior sister son shook the bag of traction beans. When can we summon these traction beans? Is it okay now? I'll ask a little bean man to notify you. It will probably take less than a cup of tea before you can summon the traction beans. Yang Zhao reached out and called one of the traction beans on the ground over. He told him the situation. The little bean man nodded, and the next moment, his whole body shrank and turned into a bean and fell to the ground. She picked up the traction beans on the ground and dragged them in her palm and then gathered with the two of them to chat for a while. After a cup of tea, he input spiritual power into the beans in his hand and summoned the little bean man who had just returned. Comrade Yang, we are ready. Now let's see who will be the 10 lucky ones. The little bean people spoke in Chinese. Wang Zhu and junior sister Sun could not understand, but seeing the expressions of the little bean people, they knew that it was done. Yang Zhao nodded to the two of them and said, the other party is ready. You can find an open space to summon them now. You just need to discuss the time with these beans to come. After getting the accurate answer, the two of them stopped chatting with her and flew back to their own territory. Didn't I have no manuscripts saved? I was so anxious about competing for the rankings those days that my mouth was covered with blisters. I won't compete for the rankings these 2 days, and I won't update. The blisters will deflate after a while. I'm so happy. Deg point you deg. Chapter 215. Finding the next entry point. It has been proven that the behavior of the foundation building cultivators has a good advertising effect. Wang Zhu and junior sister Sun took the traction beans back and freed themselves from the hard work, which attracted the attention of the cultivators on the 3rd floor. These key training cultivators gathered in groups of 3 or 2 and whispered to each other. Finally, 2 of them came to Yang Zhao to consult about the traction beans. The 2 were born in wealthy families, dressed in luxurious clothes and complete accessories. Yang Zhao gave the same conditions. The 2 looked at each other and asked Wang Zhu how many they wanted. After getting the answer, each of them picked 7 beans and left. The next thing was simple. There were more than a dozen key training cultivators doing daily tasks in the 3rd floor planting area. Most of them would come to her to pick a few traction beans to help them. After all, most people who can pass the examination for the prefectural school cultivation must have some talent and some extra money at home. It is a good deal to spend a few taels of silver to get rid of their hard work. With that time, they can study better things and concentrate on more difficult problems. Even the little bean people were taught well, so that they could learn from Yang Zhao in the future. The little bean people helped them clean up the planting land, and they practiced beside them. When Yang Zhao finished cleaning up her own planting land, even the foundation building cultivators who were doing tasks in the planting land on the 4th floor began to run to the 3rd floor. She handed in the task of the planting land, took the 5 little bean people to deliver them to Wang Zhu and Sun junior sister, said hello to the 2, and went upstairs. She stayed on the 3rd floor underground for at least 1 or 2 hours, and came to the hall on the 1st floor. Looking out, it was still dark outside. There were quite a few people in the hall. Several foundation building cultivators led a dozen key refining cultivators to block the gate of the garrison. They were carrying things in and out and discussing something loudly. The leader was none other than senior sister Lin Sishang. In addition to her cultivation level surpassing the entire Yang Zhao prefecture school, Lin Sishang was also an excellent weapon refiner. She was mainly responsible for the weapon refining tasks of this competition. Yao Guangshu's alchemy skills surpassed everyone else, so these 2 leaders were typical hexagonal warriors, and their main battlefields at the garrison were all on the 6th floor underground. Yang Zhao walked in and listened, and then he understood that their task today was to refine a batch of warm-keeping magic tools, which were required to be worn by all the monks of Yang Zhao prefecture school. The purpose of this task was to allow these key training monks to have the opportunity to go out to do tasks and not be trapped in the garrison due to the temperature here. Although the foundation building monks have a higher endurance, they cannot stay in such a low temperature environment for a long time. Although these monks of Yang Zhao prefecture school made preparations before coming to Luiyuan, they brought a lot of warm keeping magic tools. But Luiyuan was too cold. The cold was beyond their cognition, and the magic tools they originally brought could only withstand the temperature in the morning and evening. The sudden drop in temperature at night in Luiyuan has exceeded the load of those magic tools. If they take these magic tools out, these things will be at risk of being scrapped at any time. The reason they were blocking the gate was to test the cold resistance of the various refining materials prepared by the garrison point, so as to prepare for the next refining. Yang Zhao watched from afar, and first returned to his room on the 2nd floor above ground, sent the video of Wang Zhu's explanation, and then explained the matter of the labor dispatch of the little bean people, and asked them to be ready at any time. Yang Zhao, video point zip Yang Zhao, not only people in the field of planting, but also other smelting industries, mathematics, and chemistry, etc. must be prepared. Guo Fumin Qiang, don't worry, we have notified the people in place, but you still have to tell me which specific people you need, so that my people can be prepared. Yang Zhao, in addition to the plant aspect, there are also alchemy and refining people who should come to me today. After all, some rough work of handling materials always needs people to do it, and these monks of Yang Zhao prefecture school know how to choose. Guo Fumin Qiang, okay. Yang Zhao replaced the power bank for his mobile phone, turned on the camera function, and came to the lobby on the 1st floor above ground again. She found a chair not too far from the hall and sat down. She adjusted the angle of the backpack containing her mobile phone, opened the messenger instrument, and began to check the progress of each task. Lin Sishang, who was doing the experiment at the door, had a keen sense of perception. She noticed Yang Zhao as soon as he sat down, but she didn't say much except looking back. They were just testing the cold resistance of the materials, and there was no important information. Not long after Yang Zhao sat down, a cultivator from the planting area on the 4th floor came up to him. She talked to the man with a smile, took out the box of beans from the Kyankan bag in her arms, opened it and handed over the money to the other party. She also told the other party, these beans are not familiar with the language here, you have to teach them step by step. But the other party knew about this situation a long time ago, waved his hand to indicate that it was not a serious matter, and ran away happily with the beans. After the first one, there was the second one. In less than half an incense stick of time, 6 or 7 key training cultivators on the 4th floor below came to find her. They all saw the foundation building cultivators on the 3rd and 4th floors underground using these traction beams, so they had the courage to come to Yang Zhao. They were all in the same hall, and the movement here at Yang Zhao naturally alarmed the refiners who were working on the cold resistance of the materials over there. They pointed and talked about this side, and finally a foundation building refiner was sent to Yang Zhao to inquire about the situation. Yang Zhao had nothing to hide, and told everything that happened. The eyes of the refiners in the entire hall lit up. Now in this garrison, who doesn't have some meaningless chores in their hands? Not to mention others, just for them, the refiners, the ore materials at the garrison, were all sent from the Luoyuan mine point. These materials were just rough ores. Perhaps in order to test the students, these things were not even carefully selected. This kind of work is equivalent to meaningless physical labor for them. It takes time and energy, and there is not much gain. It would be great if these jobs could be taken over by the little bean people who are not familiar with their language. Although it is a bit troublesome to communicate when there is a language barrier, this situation makes them more comfortable. After returning, the foundation building cultivator told Lin Zishang the details. In fact, he didn't need to tell Lin Zishang again. Although the two parties in the hall were far away, the cultivators had sharp ears and eyes. Yang Zhao didn't lower his voice when he introduced them. They had heard all these things a long time ago. Everyone had different opinions on this matter, but in the end they all looked at Lin Zishang, the invisible leader, waiting for her to make up her mind. Chapter 216, Second Batch. After listening to this, Lin Zishang pondered for a while. She took out a small magic tool from her sleeve and handed it to the person who had just gone to Yang Zhao to inquire about the news. This is the heart-reading stone. Take it and go to the 3rd or 4th floor underground to talk to those beans about the world of cultivation. See if they are really unfamiliar with our language and don't understand the world of cultivation. She said this openly, just for Yang Zhao to hear. The cultivator took the heart-reading stone and was a little confused. Why is it so troublesome? It's just some rough work. Lin Zishang turned her eyes to Yang Zhao. After all, these little beam people are from another world. There are many things that we can't let them know. If they really don't speak the language and don't have a deep understanding of the world of cultivation, we will be more comfortable when we talk about things. The implication is to ensure that these little beam people don't have the ability to steal important knowledge. Yang Zhao sat on the chair and looked at Lin Zishang, making a gesture to let them do as they please, not taking her words seriously at all. Because the little beam people have been moving around her movement trajectory in the past few months, they and Yang Zhao must have covered more than 90% of the knowledge of the cultivation world. The knowledge of the cultivation world that Yang Zhao does not understand will also become the blind spot of the little bean people's knowledge. For example, she has been in the hall for so long, but she doesn't know any of the materials that Lin Zishang and his team are studying. What's more, Yang Zhao has heard the names of those materials for the first time. The reason why she stayed here was, first, to promote the traction beans in her hand. The cultivators on the 3 or 4 floors below had to come to the 1st floor hall to find her if they wanted traction beans. She could just put this matter in the public eye. In short, she came here to be a billboard. Second, to record everything that Lin Zishang and his team talked about. Even if these things might not be so important, even if no one on the country's rich and powerful side could understand it now. Because no one dared to guarantee that these simple knowledge would not be the key to open the door to another world. Otherwise, why did she bring these little beam people here? Was it really to do hard labor for these people? If they really need to do hard labor, there is no need to send these intellectual researchers here. Wouldn't it be better to let them do experiments in the laboratory? The reason why they come here to do these boring jobs is for those scattered, basic, and common sense knowledge that the cultivation world despises. Although these cultivators despise this knowledge, it is also accumulated by their ancestors with time and energy. It is an inconspicuous little flower that blooms in the cultivation civilization. Although it is small, it also decorates the entire civilization. The foundation building cultivator suddenly realized it after hearing this and went downstairs with the heart measuring stone. In the following time, Yang Zhao continued to flip the messenger magic tool in his hand, and Lin Zishang continued to experiment with the cold resistance of the materials. No one spoke to each other. During the waiting period, even the cultivators on the 3rd and 4th floors of the planting area did not come to Yang Zhao to buy the right to use the machine beans. It seems that the cultivators of the entire Yang Zhao Prefecture school are waiting for the results of this test. Perhaps this is not seeming, but absolutely, because Lin Zishang has doubts about this matter, and other cultivators of the Yang Zhao Prefecture school will stop promoting this matter. This is the influence of a top school leader, which is not comparable to Lin Sheng and Yao Guangshu. It took half an incense stick of time for the foundation building cultivator to come back from downstairs. Yao Guangshu was with him. Yang Zhao saw Yao Guangshu and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. It seems that the relationship between the two leaders is closer than they show. As soon as they arrived at the lobby on the 1st floor, they went straight to Lin Zishang. There is nothing wrong with those little beans. Some of them can use some simple daily expressions, but they sound strange. They don't know many things, and haven't heard of them. It is estimated that they have not come into contact with many cultivators. This person was reporting the results of his trip to Lin Zishang. It seems that he is very satisfied with the performance of these traction beans. Lin Zishang nodded while listening, and sometimes he would look up at Yao Guangshu next to him to determine his attitude. Finally, after the foundation building cultivator finished speaking, Lin Zishang and Yao Guangshu discussed it again, and then came together to find Yang Zhao to discuss the matter of the traction beans. Yang Zhao stood up with a smile and used his spiritual power to take 2 chairs from the side and asked the 2 people to sit down. Yao Guangshu, as the leader, spoke first, and Lin Zishang watched from the side. I wonder how many Kyanji beans you have left to help us. There are a lot. To be honest with you, Yao Kui Shao, I run a travel agency business in Licheng, and it is registered in the government office. These people admire the cultivation world very much, and they have to come here to see it, even if they spend money. There are always those who don't have enough money, and they are willing to come here to do something to earn money. Yang Zhao took out 5 or 6 large boxes from his Kyankan bag, and each box contained at least 100 Kyanji beans. This time, even Lin Zishang's eyes were filled with surprise. You actually have so many? I guess we can't use them all in one garrison. The little bit on the table is nothing at all. Yang Zhao still has a lot that she hasn't taken out. The Kyanji beans she has in her hand now add up to more than 3,000. If each person is given a weapon, they can form a small army. Yang Zhao smiled and said, some people who are rich just don't want to come here to work. Yao Guangshu went on, we want some Kyanji beans to help the entire garrison, not just in the planting area, but also involving the picking and sorting of minerals before refining, preliminary smelting, sorting of alchemy consumables and other simple tasks. Okay, but it is well known that the bodies of the little bean people are relatively fragile, and some of the work is probably very hard. You have to assign them appropriately, and the wages for those hard work have to be increased, right? Yao Guangshu and Lin Zishang looked at each other and nodded. Lin Zishang said, we all know this. Everything will be paid according to the wages of Licheng. Even if some cultivators can't afford the silver, my Lin family can pay for it. Senior Sister Lin, you are so straightforward. Since you have already discussed it, I have no objection. Just tell me how much you need. Let me tell you this. We will announce this matter in the messenger tool, so that cultivators in need can come to you and get it themselves. If someone can't pay, you can register this person directly under my name. The 3 of them discussed the salary level again, and finally decided to divide it into 3 levels according to Licheng. Normal work would get 5 taels of silver a month, more tiring work would get 8 taels a month, and particularly tiring work, such as handling smelting ore, would get 10 taels a month. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217. Going Out. They not only discussed the salary of the Little Bean people, but also made a detailed arrangement for the working hours. Yang Zhao, they also have a normal life over there. They can't stay here all the time for eating and sleeping. The two leaders also agreed with her point of view, and the two sides had finalized the matter. Yang Zhao prepared a large table in the hall on the first floor of the ground. This time, the monks who wanted to hire the traction beans had to register and record, and all the data had to be reported to Yao Guangshu. The news spread quickly, and monks came one after another to hire the Little Bean people. When the sky was slightly bright, Yang Zhao had hired more than 500 traction beans. The main work of these traction beans was to clean up the planting land on the 3rd and 4th floors underground, and some others helped the alchemists and weapon refiners on the 6th floor underground. Some monks also wanted to hire the Little Bean people to explore outside the garrison, but were rejected by Yang Zhao. The body transformed by the traction beans is very fragile and can't stand the severe cold outside. As the stars rose, the temperature outside gradually rose. Yao Guangshu ordered people to keep an eye on the temperature outside at all times. When the temperature rose to the passing line, he began to assign tasks that could be done during the day. There were two aspects to these tasks. One was to find out the enemy's situation, and the other was to contact the mine in Luoyang. Finally, Yao Guangshu and Lin Zishang discussed and divided the students of the entire Yang Zhao Academy into 3 groups. One team was led by Lin Zishang and 6 foundation building monks were stationed at the garrison point. These people had to lead the key training monks and the Little Bean people to complete today's daily tasks as much as possible. The 6 foundation building monks here were all good at refining pills and tools and planting. One team went to explore the enemy's situation, led by Yao Guangshu and 6 foundation building monks. Because they didn't know the danger of the task, they didn't bring any key training monks this time. The foundation building monks he brought were all majoring in spells and puppet mechanisms. The last team was led by Lin Sheng, who led 8 monks and more than 40 key training monks to the mine in Luoyang. The foundation building spirit beasts led by Lin Sheng, who were mainly engaged in formation, had 2 main tasks: to go to the mining site. One was to inspect the defense formation of the mining site on a daily basis, and the other was to conduct physical examinations on the camels at the mining site. Yang Zhao originally thought that she would follow Yao Guangshu's team to investigate the enemy situation, but Yao Guangshu sent her to Lin Sheng's team with a stroke of his pen. Yao Kui Shao, you asked me to go to the mining site. Yang Zhao glanced at Lin Sheng, clearly telling everyone that she had some minor conflicts with Lin Sheng. Ever since Lin Sheng shed tears in front of her, he treated her even worse. Moreover, there was an outspoken Liu Shao beside Lin Sheng, whom she disliked even more. Yao Guangshu was assigning key refining cultivators, and was not worried about her doubts. The information you left with me counts, so I will naturally arrange for you to help at the mining site. As for those personal grudges that are not important, I think junior brother Lin will not care. He doesn't care? Yang Zhao raised his eyebrows slightly and laughed again. Since you said so, Yao Kishao, I will naturally follow your arrangement. Yao Guangshu got a satisfactory answer and turned his eyes to Lin Sheng. Lin Sheng received Yao Guangshu's gaze and snorted coldly without saying anything. Liu Shao next to him smiled and replied, of course we welcome Brother Yang. Everyone knows that Brother Yang is very powerful. We have to trouble Brother Yang to take care of us along the way. Yang Zhao was annoyed when she saw Liu Shao. She was too lazy to pay attention to her and turned her head to look elsewhere. Liu Shao was not embarrassed by hitting a doornail and continued to look at her with a smile. Brother Yang, are you still sulking? How about I apologize to you again today? Liu Shao, shut up. Lin Zishang, who was helping Yao Guangshu to assign the key training period cultivators, was sharp-eyed and sharp-eared. She raised her head and shut Liu Shao up with a look, then turned to look at Yang Zhao. Fellow Daoist Yang, the number of foundation building cultivators in our Yang Zhao prefecture school is less than that of other schools, and there are more than one school going to the mine this time. Since we have fewer people, we must catch up in other aspects. Yang Zhao frowned after hearing these words. Why do we have to fight with others when we go to the mine? What does this have to do with whether I go to the mine? Lin Zhang said lightly, because Lin Sheng's cultivation level in Yang Zhao Prefecture School is second only to Yao Kishao and me. The implication is that Yang Zhao, who once defeated Lin Sheng, is the top 3 in the entire garrison. Lin Zhang's words made Lin Sheng frown. He was about to get angry when he was grabbed by Liu Shao beside him. The man whispered several words in his ear before calming him down. But Yang Zhao next to him was a little distrustful of such a ranking. She had only been building her foundation for a few months and had little contact with foundation building cultivators. Although she knew that she might be able to cultivate faster than the average person because of the incense and the elixir left by Shenryu, she did not feel it and had no psychological expectation of the degree of speed. Moreover, in her heart, Lin Sheng was not an outstanding person, and there was nothing to be proud of for her to be better than Lin Sheng. But she forgot that, since Lin Sheng could be the apparent leader of Yang Zhao Prefecture School, he must have his own strengths. Otherwise the teachers and students of Yang Zhao Prefecture School would not agree. In this case, can't you or Yao Kishao just go to the mine? The other 2 tasks are more important. Lin Sheng is not suitable. Fellow Daoist Yang does not need to worry about it. Lin Sheng is just a little impatient and can distinguish right from wrong. You just go. Okay, I will trust senior sister Lin this time. Yang Zhao's trouble was solved, and those key refining cultivators were also assigned by Yao Guangshu. All those who are going out on missions must bring their own life grass and protective talisman array. It's cold outside, and it may be difficult for students in the key refining stage to quench their thirst with water balls. You should prepare some water at the garrison now in case of emergency. Then, he turned around and emphasized Lin Sheng. Although the number 3 mining site is also located in Shangguan, it is not close to our garrison, and the burden on you is not light. You have 40 key refining students under you. Because the cold-proof magic weapon at our garrison has not been refined yet, the key refining students cannot stay in such a low-temperature environment for a long time. So you have to keep up your speed along the way, otherwise it will be easy to get into big trouble. Lin Sheng's attitude also became serious. Don't worry, I can still distinguish the priorities of things. Yao Guangshu nodded with satisfaction, and finally turned to look at Lin Zhang. Fellow Daoist Lin, 2/3 of our foundation building cultivators have gone out this time, and there is no certainty as to when they will return. In the next few days, the safety of this garrison will rest on your shoulders alone, so please be careful. Chapter 218, A New Look. Lin Zhang also looked serious. Don't worry about the garrison. I will talk to it. You should be more cautious when you lead people to scout the enemy this time. You 2 teams will be alone outside in a while. If anything unexpected happens, don't hesitate. Retreat immediately and don't fight. Although we are here for the competition, we won't lose our lives for the competition. If you are entangled and can't get away, you 2 can contact me through the messenger magic weapon. Lin Sheng frowned slightly. You don't have to worry too much about me. After all, the number 3 mining site is in our ruling area. The danger is not estimated to be great. What I need to pay attention to is time. Yao Guangshu is the most dangerous. You just need to pay attention to the information over there. Besides, there are not many foundation building stage people left in our garrison. I don't think you can send many people to support. His words made Yang Zhao look at him with new eyes. In her previous shallow impression, Lin Sheng was a person who was irritable, unforgiving and crying. Sure enough, none of the people who can become the leader of a prefecture are simple. The 3 team leaders handed over the details of the way out, and then Yao Kishao invited the flag of Yang Zhao Prefecture School to Lin Sheng. The people at the number 3 mining site will only open the door when they see the flag. Don't show the flag on the way. Take it out after you arrive at the mining site. Lin Sheng took the flag solemnly and turned to hand it to Yang Zhao. Fellow Daoist Yang, you take this flag. Yang Zhao was a little confused. Should such an important thing be handed over to her? Why? This flag must be held by you. Our team has a long way to go. If something unexpected happens, we can contact the garrison point for support in the first half of the journey. In the second half, the best support is to contact the number 3 mining site. You are the foundation building cultivator in our team, who has the most hope of breaking out with this flag, and calling for support at the number 3 mining site, so this flag must be in your hands. Yang Zhao still had some questions when holding the flag. But your cultivation is not bad, and you have a good chance of getting out. Lin Sheng smiled at this moment, because I mainly study formations and spells, I will be much more useful if I stay with our team, to resist than to go out and ask for help. Wow, Yang Zhao had to sigh again, a person who can become the leader of a prefecture, it is true that no one is given it for nothing. Yang Zhao may be better than him in combat power, but in other aspects, she lags far behind these prefecture school students. Alas, who let Shenroi be a martial artist who mainly practices thunder magic? Yang Zhao, who studied with him, naturally did not have any other skills. Don't worry, I will keep this set of flags well. Then Yao Guangshu led the 6 foundation building cultivators to leave first, and Lin Sheng took the key training cultivators, and waited for a while, brought water, and set off at the right time. Although the temperature outside had risen a lot at this time, the key training cultivators still couldn't stand the temperature. Their spiritual power was not enough to support them to use a cold-proof spell, so they could only take out the cold-proof magic tools they brought with them to deal with it. Lin Sheng stood in front of the team and gave orders. We need to move faster. We should not stop along the way. Otherwise, the magic weapons in your hands will not last long. Let's go now. Yes. With a response, the team of more than 40 people set out on the journey. Along the way, Lin Sheng led a foundation building period in front of the team, 2 foundation building period guarded in the sky, and 1 foundation building period supported in the key training period team. Yang Zhao led Liu Shaozu to the back of the team more than 10 meters away to hold the line. Yang Zhao was actually a little disgusted with this arrangement, but he didn't say much. Lin Sheng was the leader of this team, and he naturally had his reasons for making such an arrangement. Yang Zhao just had to obey. They had already left the garrison point, and there should be no complications. Unfortunately, Yang Zhao didn't say anything, but Liu Shao was a chatterbox. He had been mumbling beside her since the beginning, always wanting to chat with her. Fellow Daoist Yang, since you and I have been assigned together, we must take care of each other along the way. Why, fellow Daoist Yang, are you still angry with me? We are all cultivators, don't be so petty. Fellow Daoist Yang, don't be silent. Look, there are only you and me at the back of this team. If we don't say a few words, won't you feel anxious? Fellow Daoist Yang, where is your hometown? Who do you practice with? Why didn't you take the entrance exam for the provincial academy? With your aptitude, you have established a foundation at such a young age. It must be easy to take the entrance exam for the provincial academy. It's not that I look down on outsiders, it's just that outsiders really have no future, and it is the right thing to do to get into the provincial academy. Don't you know why you were assigned to this team this time? It's because of your identity as an outsider. Although you have high combat effectiveness, we don't trust you now. It's a waste of time to keep you in the garrison. Yao Guangshu doesn't dare to take you to investigate the enemy situation, so he can only let you come to senior brother Lin's team. If you are admitted to the provincial academy, then the leader position may be you, not senior brother Lin. Besides, you are a female cultivator, so it is safer to take the examination for the prefectural school. Yang Zhao felt as if 500 bees were buzzing in her ears, making her head ache. If she hadn't been afraid of beating him up now and affecting the unity of the team, she would have thrown Liu Shao aside long ago. This man is too nagging, just like Yang Zhao's father. Now she couldn't control her malicious speculation that Lin Sheng was taking revenge on her and sent Liu Shao to her side to deal with him. Maybe he hated this chatterbox himself, so he threw him to the farthest place from him to suppress him. Yang Zhao saw that he had no sign of stopping, so she could only find a sentence to choke her. Do you like Lin Sushang, Lin Kui Shao? After saying this, Yang Zhao felt that there were many unknown gazes on her. She glanced around and found that the students in front of her had intentionally or unintentionally pricked up their ears, and even the 2 in the sky deliberately lowered their altitude. Liu Shao was also confused, and for a long time, he was stuttering in rebuttal. How is it possible? How could I like senior sister Lin? How did you know that? Yang Zhao touched the Jiana long spear on his wrist carelessly. When we just arrived at the garrison yesterday, you deliberately provoked me and wanted to find trouble for Yao Kishao. Isn't it for Lin Kishao to take the lead in this competition? Liu Xiao's eyes widened, and he also noticed the unknown gazes around him. No, although I have the intention to find trouble with Yao Kishao. No, how can you tell that I want to find trouble with Yao Kishao? Yang Zhao sneered. Look at your stuttering, and you still say that you have no other thoughts about Lin Kishao? Besides, you stay with Lin Sheng every day. Are you trying to please your brother-in-law again? No, what is this? These 3 sentences made his face red, and he finally calmed down. Chapter 219, Journey. Yang Zhao let out a long sigh. For her, talking to a stranger was really embarrassing. The sky was dark, and the light from the stars fell coldly on the ground. The group of people from Yang Zhao Prefecture School were wrapped in golden runes and spells, and they moved quickly on the rigid ground. Since the temperature in Luoyuan was relatively low, the entire ground was made of hard frozen soil. Yang Zhao frowned as she walked. She always felt a little uncomfortable, but with Liu Xiao by her side, she still felt strange eyes around her. Yang Zhao approached Liu Xiao and asked him in a soft voice if he felt anything strange. When he saw Yang Zhao approaching, he thought she was here to scold him again, so he dodged backwards. But when he heard Yang Zhao's question, he frowned all of a sudden. He slowly closed his eyes and took out a bell from his sleeve, which was also a magical instrument, and held it between his hands. Strange feeling. I really don't feel anything. There's nothing strange about this listening bell either, but your cultivation is higher than mine, and your spiritual perception may be more sensitive than mine. The thin air made the voice weaker. The two looked at each other, and Yang Zhao took out the messenger to contact Lin Sheng at the front of the team. After a while, Lin Sheng sent this message to the group, asking everyone to reflect their own feelings. These foundation building cultivators showed their magical powers, but except for Yang Zhao, everyone else felt normal. This made Yang Zhao fall into self-doubt. Was it a paranoid ghost? Even though there was no result in the end, Lin Sheng and other foundation building cultivators attached great importance to Yang Zhao's feelings. We may encounter the enemy's conventional surveillance devices, which are generally not life-threatening and difficult to detect. Everyone should be alert and pay attention to any disturbances in the surrounding area at any time. Yang Zhao, you should pay attention to your own feelings. If the situation changes, tell us in time. Yes. Although Yang Zhao agreed, she was still a little puzzled in her heart. After all, she was full of doubts about herself, but others acted as if they trusted her. It's right that you can't figure it out. Liu Xiao looked at Yang Zhao's puzzled face and naggled with a smile beside him. Our teacher has emphasized this many times. We, the students of the prefectural school, have never encountered any dangerous things since we were born, so we are not so alert to danger. But in this respect, the outsiders are more than one step ahead of us. They said that you often encounter danger and your life experience is much more exciting than ours. Before we set off, Mr. Lee specifically told us to pay attention to your feelings. As he spoke, the expression on his face changed from serious to a gossipy look. Have you also experienced a lot of danger? Has anyone chased you? Have you ever robbed someone of magic weapon? When exploring, Yang Zhao had a headache listening to this. This person really wanted to nag at every opportunity. Can you shut up? This really affects my concentration. Liu Xiao looked disgusted and distanced himself, muttering something so petty. Although everyone had a shadow of doubt in their hearts, the whole team still marched forward at the original speed. Facts have proved that Lin Sheng's statement seems to be correct. Although Yang Zhao can still feel the entanglement of that gaze, this feeling is getting weaker and weaker, and only a trace is left. After Yang Zhao published this discovery on the notice of the messenger magic weapon, the team, which was just full of tension, relaxed. Lin Sheng could also lead the way with peace of mind. He brought out a magic weapon similar to Sinan from the garrison. Unlike Sinan, the pointer of this thing always points to the direction of the number 3 mining point. It was this small magic weapon that saved a lot of time for the students of Yang Zhao Prefecture School to identify the direction. Along the way, as soon as Liu Xiao shut up, the whole team quieted down and everyone ran forward mechanically. After walking for nearly an hour, Lin Sheng found a gentle mountain top and asked everyone to rest here. He took out 32 small flags from his arms and arranged them around the periphery where everyone rested. He allowed everyone to sit down and rest after the formation was activated. The spiritual power of the key training period monks was meager, and they could not bear to continue to use the light body technique to rush on the road. At this time, they sat together to eat the bigu pill, while the foundation building period monks stayed outside to rest. Several foundation building cultivators took out water bags from their own Kyankan bags and distributed them to cultivators who did not have Kyankan bags. Not every cultivator had a Kyankan bag, and it was not cheap in the world of cultivation. Water took up a much larger area than the bigu pill and was heavy. Carrying the necessary drinking water would greatly affect the marching speed of the key training cultivators. These cultivators were essentially students and had never suffered much, so it was imperative to let the cultivators with Kyankan bags carry water, and Yang Zhao also took on part of the task of carrying water. However, this task caused some complaints from other foundation building cultivators. They could use magic to summon water bowls for drinking. When they were thirsty halfway, they could just pinch the magic formula and water would come. It was convenient and fast. Moreover, it was a bit embarrassing for them to carry water for the key training cultivators. We are not those traveling merchants. Do we need to carry some goods? But the complaints of these foundation building cultivators were all suppressed by Lin Sheng. The temperature in Luoyuan is too low, and the water vapor is thin. If you want to perform the water bowl technique, which originally does not require much spiritual power, you need to use more than 10 times the spiritual power here. Besides, the temperature is very low, and what you summon are basically ice lumps. It takes more spiritual power to maintain the form of water. We are on the battlefield. Although the war here has subsided, every bit of spiritual power you can save is a bit. This bit of power may save your life. This is a big competition. Once you leave the garrison, those young masters should put down their airs. Yang Zhao agreed with Lin Sheng's approach. Is it shameful to bring water? This statement made her feel incredible. After all, she was the one who brought her own snacks and water when she took the train. So this time she stood on Lin Sheng's side with a clear banner, which made those who wanted to provoke Yang Zhao to jump out and oppose him stop. Fellow Daoist Lin is the leader of this team. Once you leave the garrison, you should suppress your little thoughts. Once they left the garrison, these people stayed away from Lin Sheng. Lin Sheng lost to Yang Zhao more than 10 days ago, which inevitably made them have other thoughts. But this time the two big mountains in the team stood together, and the others naturally had nothing to say, and obediently put the water bags into their precious Kyankan bags. After eating and drinking, the key training monks collectively practiced kung fu to restore their spiritual power, while the foundation building monks were divided into two teams to take turns to restore their spiritual power. Yang Zhao recovered first, and Lin Sheng recovered later, as they pleased. Chapter 220, Internal Conflict. Yang Zhao calmed down, took out the pill from her bosom, and put it in her mouth. Seeing her action, Liu Shao next to her couldn't help but want to come closer again. You take pills while practicing? Is it to improve your cultivation? Seeing Yang Zhao close her eyes and didn't refute, Liu Shao couldn't help but continue to nag. Although this kind of pill can improve a person's cultivation in a short time, the risks are also great. Didn't your master tell you? Yang Zhao injured the burning pain in her meridians, opened her eyes, and glared at him fiercely. Seeing her eyes, Liu Shao knew that this person didn't appreciate his kindness. I'm doing this for your own good, don't you know? No wonder you are so young, but your cultivation is already able to surpass senior brother Lin. It seems that you have taken a shortcut, but the shortcut is full of thorns, and every step will hurt your feet. Be careful not to be entangled by those thorns and drag you into the wrong path. Yang Zhao's fingers were already trembling with pain, but with someone dawdling next to her, it was difficult for her to shift her mind to cultivation. Her eyes were blazing with anger, and she squeezed out a sentence from between her teeth. Can you shut up? Lin Sheng, who was on guard over there, noticed the situation here, and came over to pull Liu Shao away. This is her time to practice and rest, don't make trouble here. Liu Shao had a condescending attitude. Brother Lin, you don't know, what I said just now was for her good, but in the end, this heretic cultivator is a heretic cultivator. She is very short-sighted. The bright road is next to her, but she insisted on taking that rugged path. You said I warned her, but she didn't appreciate it. It's really. Lin Sheng looked at him with a headache, half pressing his fingers with one hand. Okay, shut up first. Don't disturb everyone's practice and rest. If you don't shut up, I'll cast a silence spell on you. Liu Shao walked away, to be on guard with an embarrassed look, still muttering in a low voice. Isn't this what senior sister Lin loves to use on you? Now you're using it to threaten me. Lin Sheng looked at him and rolled his eyes. He also had the temper of a young master. If it wasn't for the safety of this journey, he wouldn't have the patience to take care of this kind of thing. Besides, it was none of his business whether Yang Zhao took the elixir or went astray. The two sides were just in a temporary partnership. Did he want to be someone else's life mentor? Mind your own business. Yang Zhao became quiet. Without the noise in her ears, she was more comfortable using the three pure ones in the right yang meridian. She stirred the spiritual energy, endured the burning of the fire, and filled the spiritual energy into the meridians. When her spiritual energy was almost restored, she stood up and replaced Lin Sheng, who was on guard in the team. The stars in the sky rose slowly, and the temperature in Luoyuan also rose slowly. The cold-proof magic tools of the key training cultivators never dared to be put away. These magic tools were also consuming the thin spiritual energy in their bodies. After these key training cultivators had finished their rest, Lin Sheng also stood up from the ground. He took out his magic weapon to identify the direction, and asked everyone to set off according to their original positions. This time, Yang Zhao and Liu Shao fell behind the team again. This person seemed to have never learned how to read people's faces. Perhaps Yang Zhao's face was not worth his attention. It seemed that, after knowing that she used elixirs to improve her cultivation, Liu Shao looked at Yang Zhao with contempt, and didn't want to hide it at all. Did you only open the most basic 3 meridians when you opened your meridians, and there is no great future, so you thought of taking this thing? Where did you get the recipe for the elixir? Did your master give it to you, or did you pick it up in some ruins? What are the negative effects of your elixir? Can you tell me about it? Yang Zhao glanced at him and raised her wrist. I have a bad temper. After taking the elixir, the Gianna long spear dangled on her wrist without any magical power. Liu Shao snorted disdainfully and closed his mouth. 3 hours passed like this, and even if they took a break for an hour, everyone's mental fatigue could not be reduced. The team was very sparse, and some people gathered together to talk at the beginning, but now they have completely given up this behavior. Even Liu Shao looked pale. When they were stationed here to rest, the few foundation building cultivators complained. Can we not rest? We only walk such a short distance every time. This is the first time for our team to go to the number 3 mining site. Why can Yao Kishao not bring his key training stage brothers, but we should bring them? If there were only us foundation building cultivators, we would have flown to the number 3 mining site long ago. Who said it wasn't? It would only take more than 2 hours to get there by flying. Now it's been 4 hours, and we haven't seen the shadow of the number 3 light spot yet. You should say less. Although they spoke in a low voice, the cultivators had sharp ears and eyes, and heard their complaints clearly. The faces of these people were filled with anger, but because their cultivation was not as good as others, they could only hold it back. If these people say a few more words, the team of Yang Zhao Prefecture School will have to disband. But Lin Sheng's face was not very good. He sat there with his mind wandering and no one knew what he was thinking. Facing this situation, he actually did not care. Now the words of those foundation building students became even more unpleasant. Look, senior brother Lin didn't say I was wrong. He must think so in his heart. Some people are dragging us down, and I'm not allowed to say a word or two. Yang Zhao took a small stone from the hard ground, tested the weight in his hand, and threw it at Lin Sheng. Lin Sheng came back to his senses and looked at the stone beside him, his eyebrows raised. Who is blind enough to throw a stone at me? Yang Zhao glanced at the quiet foundation building students. I said, why are you in a daze? If you don't care, the team of Yang Zhao Prefecture School will disband. Lin Sheng frowned and subconsciously wanted to refute. What nonsense are you talking about? Yang Zhao rolled his eyes at him. I'm talking nonsense. Can't you open your eyes and see? Now those foundation establishment stage masters were not happy. Fellow Daoist Yang, are you exaggerating? How come this team just broke up? Really? You are not from my Yang Zhao prefecture school at all. You rely on taking pills to improve your cultivation, and you still want to meddle in our business. Why do you want to sow discord between the brothers and sisters in our Yang Zhao prefecture school? As soon as they spoke, Lin Sheng, who had just been wandering in the void, also reacted to what Yang Zhao was saying. He shouted and suppressed the voices of others. Shut up. You can't stand it in such a short time. There are many people watching this competition. Do you really want to let the examiners and teachers see your ugly appearance? Lin Sheng glanced at them fiercely. You are also from the key condensation stage. If you can't speak, I can help you shut your mouth. Chapter 221. Crazy. According to past experience, Lin Sheng could suppress this situation with his status and cultivation. But this time, he didn't know what happened. As soon as he opened his mouth, those foundation building period cultivators exploded. Lin Sheng, you first lost to Yao Guangshu, a student from the outer prefecture, and then lost to Yang Zhao, a cultivator from the outer sect. You have lost the face of my Yang Zhao Academy. What qualifications do you have to speak nonsense in front of us? That's right. Anyone who knows a little bit of face would find a crack in the ground to hide in. It's a pity that there is that person who doesn't know what face is and is still talking nonsense in front of you and me. Lin Sheng's sword eyebrows were raised, and he was furious because of the pressure from these people. No matter how useless I am, I was once the leader of Yang Zhao Prefecture Academy. Who are you to dare to bark in front of me? Yang Zhao listened to the verbal battle between the two sides, and felt the unwarranted fire rising in her heart, and in an instant she covered her eyes. She really wanted to slap them all into stickers to vent her anger. The people here are not children anymore. Can't they tell the priorities? When facing Lin Sheng's counterattack, the venom in the eyes of those foundation establishment stages was almost flowing out. Heh, champion. How dare you take the champion position that the illegitimate daughter gave you? The head of the Lin family has no moral integrity, and he has an illegitimate daughter, and he actually wants to take the champion position of Yang Zhao Academy. Who are you scolding for having no moral integrity? How can you youngsters argue about the affairs of the elders? Do you really think I dare not kill you? Lin Sheng brought out his magic sword with a clang. These two sentences angered more than just Lin Sheng. Liu Shao, who was sitting next to him watching the show, also jumped out. Sister Lin's position as the champion is what everyone wants. What are you doing here? How dare you criticize Sister Lin in public? Those foundation establishment stages seemed to be so angry that they also sacrificed their magic weapons and dared to say anything. We are crazy. Haha, it's only you, young Master Liu, who always stares at that illegitimate daughter. Why do you want to marry an illegitimate daughter? Aren't you afraid of losing your status as a son of a noble family? Bah, you two are slandering me. Senior Sister Lin is like a beautiful pearl. How can I have such a dirty mind? Liu Shao's eyes turned red, and he also sacrificed his magic weapon. Both sides spoke without restraint, and with weapons in hand, they were bolder in their hearts. I don't know who started the fight first, but those people fought together. Although those foundation building period people were outnumbered, Lin Sheng's cultivation was more than one level higher than those people. With Liu Shao helping him, the two sides were evenly matched. They should be stabbed to death. Yang Zhao trembled and pressed the giant long spear that was moving around on his wrist, staring at the people who were fighting endlessly with red eyes. These blind people dared to look down on me. Even if I was an outsider, I would still beat them. They looked down on me in front of me. Do they really think that I, Yang Zhao, have no temper? They even dared to stir up trouble? I should have beaten them until they were convinced. No, I can't hit people. At least I can't hit them first. If I hit them first, I will be at fault. Do I have to pay for their car? Why should I pay for their car? I have no money. I have to wait here and let them hit me first. Then they will pay for my car. Yes, I have never bought a car since I was a child. What kind should I choose? Wuling Mini? It's a bit small. Yang Yun has to bend his legs and hunch his back when sitting in the car. He looks too cowardly. Yang Yun. By the way, where did that damn kid Yang Yun go? I was about to fight with others. Why was he not with me? From childhood to adulthood, whenever there was a fight, the two of them would definitely fight together. Why is Yang Yun not here now? Yang Zhao's heart tightened, and she subconsciously looked around. The desolation reflected in her blood-red eyes was like cold water pouring all over her head and face. No, this is not right. The giant long spear on her wrist struggled to get out of her control, and the black and red blood spread from her wrist to her whole body. Be quiet for a while. Yang Zhao firmly pressed the giant long spear that was stirring and churning on her wrist, and her pair of scholard eyes turned woodenly to look at the group of key training students. I don't know when, the group of key training students all held sticks and guns, and their faces were full of anger. They slowly moved forward, as if they wanted to surround Yang Zhao. Can I kill them? Yes. No, I can't. How can I want to kill people? The eyes that were a little clear at first were provoked by those key training students, and they became red again. Killing is against the law and you have to go to jail. Maybe I can wait for them to hit me first. Is it considered self-defense? That's not right. Yang Yun is not around. Can I beat them? Where is Yang Yun? Roar. This roar seemed to ring in Yang Zhao's mind, making her dizzy and her ears buzzing. Yang Zhao looked down woodenly and found that the giant long spear in her wrist had already taken on the image of a giant long. The scarlet blood wrapped around the giant long's body. The red eyes seemed to contain endless blood, staring at her with indignation. But no matter how much the giant long struggled, it could not break free from Yang Zhao's restraints. It shook its head in Yang Zhao's palm and screamed in grief and anger. Giant long spear. Master Shen. Yang Yun. Yang Zhao suddenly felt a chill behind her head. She suddenly pounced forward, and the giant long spear appeared in her hand and swung it behind her. Clang clang clang. Yang Zhao picked up a magic sword and flew out. She turned her head suddenly and glared at the key training student who had attacked her first. Do you really not want to live? If you don't want to live, just say it. I'll satisfy you, okay? No, 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 go. No one knew who started it, but the 40 key training period rushed up and surrounded Yang Zhao. Swords and knives were facing each other, and arrows and spears were flying. It seemed that only by killing Yang Zhao with the swords could they be relieved. No, this is not right. Yang Zhao took out the fengling ball from his arms, threw it into the sky, and it wrapped around himself. Those magic weapons hit the fengling ball one after another, making a dense sound of metal collision, but she was not hurt at all. She desperately controlled the shaking giant long spear in her hand, and her scarlet eyes were sometimes clear and sometimes crazy. This is definitely not right. How could I, a good and law-abiding young man in the 21st century, think of fighting and killing? Why should I be angry? They fight each other. Why should I be angry? Don't be angry. Life is like a play. How do you recite the next sentence? Prosperity, democracy, civilization, harmony. Fuck. Yang Zhao's mind suddenly cleared up, and the blood-red sky quickly dispersed in front of his eyes. She looked outside with sudden realization. These people are crazy. Chapter 222, Heart Purification Mantra. These people are crazy. Yang Zhao stood in the wind chime ball, thinking secretly. How can they be crazy? Looking outside, the more than 40 students in the key training stage are still frantically attacking the wind chime balls around her. They have quarreling expressions and bloodshot eyes, and there is no trace of rational emotions. Looking up, Lin Sheng and other foundation building cultivators are already fighting in full swing. From time to time, there are stars of blood splashing in the air, which turn into dark red ice slag in midair. What is this? Camp roar. Can these 40 or so people blow up the camp? Yang Zhao turned around in the fengling ball in confusion, and then she was sure that everyone around was crazy. Oh, they won't be wiped out here, right? Suddenly, Yang Zhao felt a nameless fire in her heart surging, and frantically tested her nerve called reason. Even the dragon spear in her hand couldn't maintain the form of the weapon, and wanted to show the appearance of a dragon. She took 2 deep breaths, suppressing the strange anger in her heart. Yang Zhao wondered if she had some psychological disease. She seemed to have seen before that if you walk in an open space for a long time, you will get a mental illness, but she really didn't remember what the disease was called. No, these people have this kind of mental illness, right? But can Gianna Longspear also get a mental illness? In the world of cultivation, would the onset of mental illness be so crazy? Perhaps it is something else. But no matter what, she had to save these people. Although she represented Yang Zhao Academy to participate in this competition, she was definitely not as good as these authentic students in terms of status and position. If these people all fought here, it would be very likely that a few unlucky people would die. Or if it wasted time, when the star set and the temperature dropped, wouldn't all these students in the key refining stage freeze to death here? After all, the anti-cold magic weapons in their hands could not withstand the severe cold at night. At that time, how would Yang Zhao explain to the teachers of Yang Zhao Academy? Others fought to the death, but she herself was unscathed. Who would believe that she didn't kill a few people in the middle? Among a group of crazy people, the normal person became the biggest suspect, and she felt her emotions were abnormal. The strange anger, like a wave, washed over her reason again and again, without a moment of rest. She even felt a deep chill that chilled her heart. She had to suppress this commotion as soon as possible, otherwise if something went wrong, she might not be able to get out of this wasteland. Yang Zhao knocked the Gianna long spear hard, suppressing it to maintain the state of the spear, and then turned her mind. The range of the Fengling Bull suddenly expanded, covering several key refining stages who could not dodge in time. Those key refining stages suddenly paused, and then attacked her like crazy. She raised her hand, and pinched the formula, spit out the word fixed one of them in place, and then turned around, to avoid the attacks of the other two. After saying the word fixed repeatedly, the people in the Fengling Ball froze in place. She did the same thing, and put a few more people into the Fengling Ball to freeze them. After a while, the 40 students in the key training stage were all frozen in the Fengling Ball. The protection range of the Fengling Ball was expanded by more than 30 meters. 16 plates of armor flew up and down, covering these unconscious people. She carefully examined the status of these students one by one, and found that they were completely irrational. Even though they were frozen on the spot by Yang Zhao, their bodies were stiff and their eyes were full of murderous intent. This was a bit troublesome. Seeing that they were completely irrational, I wonder if the heart purification mantra taught by Master Shenroi would work. The battle in the sky was in full swing, but in her eyes, it was still hard to tell whether there was a life or death victory or not. She would solve the part on the ground first, and then deal with the part in the sky. Anyway, they had a high level of cultivation, and were strong enough to withstand the tossing. Besides, who told them to be careless and cursed everyone? Yang Zhao no longer cared about it, and clasped his hands together to calm down. A pure heart is like water, and pure water is the heart. There is no breeze, no waves, sitting alone in the secluded bamboo forest, whistling and playing the harp. The heart is as clear as ice, and all things are especially quiet. The heart should be quiet. Flowers and leaves are falling. My emotions are overflowing, and my mind is free of attachments. The sky is high and the earth is vast. The heart calming sutra is as cold as ice for thousands of years. The sound of Taoism echoed in the Fengling Bowl and gradually spread to the outside. The blood in the eyes of the sluggish people in the Fengling Pearl just faded away, and then it surged up between their eyebrows. The expression on her face was crazy for a while, and calm for a while, and she changed her face faster than them. Moreover, when she uttered the pure heart mantra, there was always a sense of stagnation, as if something was tripping her lips and tongue, making her unable to speak. Yang Zhao had a bottom line in her heart this time. This camp whistle was not an accident, and there must be external forces stirring in the middle. But she was not afraid. Looking at the reactions of those key training monks, she knew that the pure heart mantra was useful. This discovery made her feel excited. It's easier to deal with it if there is a solution, which is always better than rushing in without a clue. Anyway, Yang Zhao was going to fight him today. Yang Zhao simply sat on the ground with his legs slid out, holding the Gianna long spear horizontally in his arms, pinching his hands and chanting spells. If your heart is as clear as ice, you will not be startled by the sky falling. No matter how many changes you make, your mind will be calm. The void is peaceful and there is nothing. Nothingness is born, and it is difficult to achieve each other. Forgetting the fate and the things, they are the same as nirvana. The sky and the earth are boundless, and all things are the same. Flying flowers and falling leaves, be open-minded. Thousands of worries, just let go of your heart. The sound of Taoism shook the surrounding spiritual energy, turning into invisible spring rain, soothing everyone present. Yang Zhao only felt that the nameless anger in his heart was extinguished bit by the kinks in mantra, and the remaining dust was completely swept out of his heart, leaving no trace. Slowly, a few key training monks showed a look of realization on their faces. They were first panicked about their own situation, and finally stared at Yang Zhao sitting on the ground. Their expressions calmed down. Once there is a first, there will be a second. When Yang Zhao recited it for the third time, more and more key refining cultivators kept waking up. Their expressions changed from panic to fear, and then they slowly calmed down to their current situation. When Yang Zhao recited it for the fourth time, the restless air had turned into the severe cold of the wilderness. She kept chanting the spell, stood up, and began to observe the expressions of those key refining cultivators one by one, while holding the Jhana long spear. When she saw a normal looking person, she removed the immobilization spell on him. The person trembled all over, his legs softened, and he sat on the ground. He quickly sat cross-legged, closed his eyes and meditated, and then followed Yang Zhao to recite the Pure Heart mantra. In this way, Yang Zhao removed the immobilization spells of these people one by one, and these people quickly joined the Pure Heart mantra team. The team gradually grew larger, and finally a full 40 people sat on the ground and chanted the Pure Heart mantra together. Yang Zhao slowly lowered his voice, closed his mouth, and withdrew from the team of these people. Next, it's time to deal with those people in the sky. Everyone asked me if I had any drafts saved. Not now, because I have been revising the previous chapters these days, such as typos and sentence errors. I'm going through each chapter one by one, trying to make it smoother. Now I have updated more than 200 chapters, which is a big project. Chapter 223, Strange Things, 2 in 1. The battle in the sky was at a stalemate, but Yang Zhao was in a dilemma below. How could he bring them down safely? Now they were evenly matched. What if she brought one down first and broke the balance between the two? And there might be unknown enemies watching in secret. You keep reciting the heart purification mantra. I'll go out and see if there's a way to calm them down. Don't worry, I'll leave the Fenglings who to protect you. Yes. The key refining student responded softly, turned his head, and immersed his mind in the heart purification mantra. Yang Zhao held the Jhana long spear, turned sideways and came out of the Fengling's Hu, and flew up directly with his toes. In the sky, Lin Sheng flew up and down with his magic sword. Although the climate of Luoyuan restricted him greatly, with Liu Shao's help, he was able to fight the other 6 Foundation establishment cultivators on equal terms for a while. Although the 6 foundation building cultivators were inferior to Lin Sheng in terms of cultivation, and because of the influence of their minds, they could not play any clever cooperation, but they were outnumbered and resisted Lin Sheng's attack very well. Yang Zhao flew around their battlefield in the air for a long time, but still had no good solution. In this situation, she couldn't help but think of the Jhana long spear. When the Jhana long spear was first born in Heishi, it was really able to fight against double-digit foundation building cultivators and chase Yang Zhao. In terms of strength, it could definitely crush a group of foundation building cultivators. However, it had just died, and its bones were refined into weapons. Even its soul was not freed, and was pressed into the weapon. This caused its soul to be abnormally fragile, and it did not have time to recuperate, allowing Yang Zhao to take advantage of it. She reached out and patted the Jhana long spear. Hey, buddy, do me a favor, how about you go up and sweep down all 8 of them with your tail? These words were like a stone ball into the sea, without causing any waves. But Yang Zhao didn't believe that it didn't hear. Just now, Jhana long gun was still excited by the unknown things. Why was it pretending to be silent now? I know you can hear me, buddy, just say something. Can't you help me? Can you bear to watch so many young people die here? But no matter what Yang Zhao said, it still pretended to be dead and carried out non-violent non-cooperation to the end. Jhana Long, if you are like this, don't blame me. It still didn't react. Hey, you force me to do this. Yang Zhao turned around and returned to Fengling's Hu. She found a place to sit cross-legged and came to her soul land in a blink of an eye. At this time in her soul land, Jaya Langun's soul was sitting cross-legged and muttering something. Yang Zhao listened attentively and found that he was also chanting the meditation mantra. Every time she came to the soul land, the soul of Jaya Langun was like a mural, unable to make any movement or give any reaction. This time, he could even see him smacking his lips, which was not easy. Yang Zhao stretched out his hand, and a lightning spear appeared in her hand. In her own soul land, she is her own creator. Hey man, do you really want to force me to use force? You are quite old, and you will not be able to face me if I beat you up here, right? And you know that I will really beat you up. Jaya Langun stopped chanting the heart purification mantra and opened his eyes indifferently. It's just those young people, let them die. Why are you in such a hurry? Jaya Langun's words surprised Yang Zhao a little. After all, the two of them had been together for a few months and had not communicated. It seems that Jaya Langun was also beaten up by someone today, and now he is a little impatient. Oh, you finally open your mouth to talk to me. How come you are also at a disadvantage? Jaya Langun raised his head and glanced at her, his blood red eyes chilling, and then he lowered his head and continued to chant the heart purification mantra. Yang Zhao circled around it and found that it did not pretend to be obedient to the heart purification mantra, but put its whole heart and soul into the mantra, and it seemed that it was really overwhelmed. I don't think so. With such a high level of cultivation and such an old age, are you so weak in this aspect of psychological resistance, or have you killed too many people and you will die after you die? Jaya Langun opened his eyes and glared at her fiercely, with a trace of black and red aura spreading to his face. What's good about you? You trapped my soul in your soul land. I'm in chaos here, and you will also suffer. Why are you gloating over my misfortune? This is really big news. Is the bond between the two of them so great? So I almost fell into the maze just now, because of your influence? In other words, if it weren't for you, I might not be in any trouble? Jaya Langun whispered the mantra again, suppressed the black and red blood on his face, and didn't want to pay attention to her. Yang Zhao walked over and squatted beside him to comfort him. Jaya Lang, you can't chant like this now. The enemy is in the dark, and we are in the light. If you don't find the enemy, do you want to chant in my soul land for the rest of your life? Jaya Langun opened his blood red eyes irritably. You are all dead. They will naturally stop this thing. Do you know what this is? Do you know how to turn it off? I don't know. Don't ask me. Seeing that the black and red blood was about to spread to his face again, Jaya Langun immediately closed his eyes and chanted the heart purification mantra again. I know that I had a bad attitude just now. I apologize to you here. From its tone, Jaya Langun knew what it was that affected everyone's mind. Yang Zhao immediately changed his attitude, smiled and moved closer to discuss in a good tone. That thing has tortured you so much that you can only stay awake by chanting our Taoist spells. Don't you want to retaliate against it? If you know what that thing is, tell me, and I can destroy it with one hand, and you won't have to worry. Think about it. Although the lives of those youngsters out there are worthless, that thing has also affected you, old man. If you tell me about that thing, I can vent your anger for you. Don't worry, I will definitely not cripple you, old man. Just move your mouth, and I will definitely get this done for you. Seeing that the Jaya Lang spear looked a little moved, Yang Zhao continued to work hard in its ear. You said that the enemies behind the scenes are also bullies. If you hadn't had an accident, you would have killed them all with your tail. Why would you still be here to endure this? They bullied you so much, bullied you because you were unstable, bullied you because you were in a desperate situation, bullied you. Among them, aren't you the one who bullied me the most? Jaya Lang Qiang suddenly opened his eyes, and the strong hatred almost flowed out of his blood-red pupils. But now you and I are on the same vine. We are family. Those things have long passed. There is no bullying or not. Yang Zhao's smile became even more intense, and there was even a hint of kindness in his smile. They are bullying you openly now. Don't you want to flatten them with your tail? Just point that thing out to me. I will definitely help you smash it into pieces, and you can't even put it together. I can't let them control others and bully you so blatantly. This time, even the heart purification mantra couldn't make Jaya Lang's spear feel relieved, and the black and red blood instantly covered his head and face. That thing has been following you. As long as you take out this fengling pearl, it will come behind you. Yang Zhao felt that all the hairs on his body stood up in an instant. No, that thing has been behind me all the time. How come I didn't see it? Could it be a ghost? This time, Jiana Longspear was a little surprised. Are you still afraid of ghosts? Yang Zhao looked a little ugly. Why am I not afraid of ghosts? I have been afraid of ghosts the most since I was a child. Otherwise, do you think I would tolerate you installing murals here? No, I remember that your master was also a ghost. Are you afraid of him too? Yang Zhao glared at it fiercely and said nothing. But she didn't say anything, which made Jiana Longspear understand that Yang Zhao was afraid. She was even afraid of Shenryu, the master. Don't ask those nonsense questions. Just tell me whether that thing is a person, a ghost, or an object. How can I find it? It's easy to find. Don't you have incense? Cover your eyes with the incense and you will see it at a glance. Jiana Longspear's blood was surging. It calmed down again and recited the heart purification mantra in a low voice. Yang Zhao came out of the land of spirits with an ugly face, took the Jiana Longspear, and turned to take out Feng Lingsu. After walking a few steps, she used the incense to cast the body of the god, and suddenly turned back to look behind her. I saw that behind the blank space, a grey shadow emerged. This thing had no head and tail, and it was round and bulging on the top, and there were many tentacles floating below. It looked like a big jellyfish. This thing is crystal clear, and it is actually a bit cute. Yang Zhao stared at this thing with an ugly face, raised the Jiana Longspear and stabbed it. But who knew, that thing just flickered slightly and dodged the attack. Yang Zhao raised his gun and swept it again, and the thing jumped up, but still missed. Her eyes stood up, and spiritual power surged all over her body. Dark red blood rose from the dragon spear. Finally, she tiptoed up, raised the spear over her head, and with both arms, the dragon spear slammed down with a strange wind. Woo, bang. Sand and stones flew, and the frozen soil on the ground was hit by Yang Zhao. There was nothing on the ground except the pit. She put away the spear alertly, looked around, and found that the thing had run behind her again. Yang Zhao turned the spear upside down and chased the strange thing and hit it, but the result was the same. She couldn't catch up with it at all. Even when the blood of the dragon spear touched the thing, it would be absorbed into its bulging body. And even if the thing was discovered, or even attacked by Yang Zhao, it would not run away or fight back, but just quickly dodge the attack, and then quietly follow her again. There are probably only two explanations. One is that this thing is fearless, and is not afraid of being discovered by the people from Yang Zhao Academy. It is confident that Yang Zhao and his people cannot hurt it. Otherwise, this thing actually has no intelligence, and just follows her mechanically, like a robot. That is not very intelligent. But no matter which case, it is certain that Yang Zhao's speed is not as fast as others. Yang Zhao put away his spear and used the fireball technique to attack, but it still didn't work. This thing seemed real and illusory. It ran away before the fireball technique entered its body. Looking at its unparalleled speed, Yang Zhao bit his lip and slowly walked back to Feng Lingsu. As a result, just as he approached Feng Lingsu, this strange thing stopped not far away from Feng Lingsu. It seems that this thing is a little afraid of Feng Lingsu. If it weren't for protecting these foundation building students, Yang Zhao really wanted to use Feng Lingsu to trap this thing. Or just spread Feng Lingsu into a flat plate and use the absolute area to kill it in one go. But Yang Zhao didn't dare to bet that there were no enemies in the dark nearby, so she naturally didn't dare to let these students in the key refining stage out of the protection circle of Feng Lingsu. However, no matter how fast this thing is, it can't be faster than thunder and lightning. Yang Zhao stood in Feng Lingsu, clasped her hands, and began to chant in a low voice. The main reason was that the formula of this thunder method was too long, and she was afraid that she would be attacked by bad guys if she cast the spell outside. Deputy Marshal of Xingxiao, Zhao Gongming of Zhengai. The golden whip shines a star shadow, the iron chain suppresses the mountain. The generals and officials follow the left and right, and the black tiger shows its might. I'm summoned by the emperor, and I must show up quickly. Hurry up and follow the orders of the ancestor Xian Qiliu Infinite High and Bright Emperor, the subtle vacuum, Zhao Gong of Xingxiao. Drive thunder and lightning, move fire and wind. What gods will not be subdued? What ghosts dare to rush? Even though Yang Zhao's mouth is sharp, this series of spells still took a long time. So during this time, she didn't even dare to blink, staring at that thing, for fear that this thing would change its position in such a long time, making the thunder method empty. As Yang Zhao chanted the spell, the thin air suddenly blew, and the dark sky seemed to be covered with light clouds. The thing was originally swimming leisurely outside the Fengling Pearl, but as the dark clouds gathered, it seemed to become irritable. It turned left and right around the Fengling Pearl, and even tried to run away several times, but turned back. Only at this time did Yang Zhao confirm that this thing was an animal with survival instincts, not some kind of magic weapon or talisman. But unfortunately, it seems that judging from its performance, this thing has really been programmed by someone, and it can't disobey orders. I respectfully summon Marshal Zhao Gangming, the Nine Heavens traveling envoy, to come to the altar as soon as possible. Quick, crack. As soon as Yang Zhao finished speaking, a flash of lightning flashed from the light dark clouds, and the dazzling lightning struck the thing swiftly. Although the thing tried to dodge, how could its movements be as fast as the lightning? Obviously, it is not as good as this thing. It is like a dream cannon shadow. Once it is stimulated by lightning, it turns into a phantom and disappears. Yang Zhao quickly walked out of Fengling's Hu and came to the place where the lightning struck to take a closer look. He found that the thing just now did not even have a piece of its flesh left. It was as if it had really turned into foam. She was still worried and started to use incense to cast her body again. A pair of eyes appeared with golden light, scanning everything around. Now my average subscription is 99. I will add a chapter when the average subscription exceeds 100. I guess I can pass it tomorrow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224, Site 3, 2 in 1. The dark sky and the bright sunshine. Yang Zhao opened her golden eyes and searched carefully until she could no longer see the figure of that thing. She was relieved. That thing followed her strangely, and she didn't know how long it had been following her. Now thinking about it, goosebumps all over her body are still standing. As the thing disappeared, the giant long spear no longer trembled with a blood-red light, and the faces of those in the Fengling Ball gradually calmed down. It seems that this thing is affecting everyone's mind. Yang Zhao held the giant long spear and retreated to the Fengling Ball. She was guarding these key training period, afraid of any accidents. The fight in the sky was still fierce. It was estimated that these people were trapped in those negative emotions and had not yet broken free. She could only knock the Fengling Pearl beside her with the giant long spear. Please everyone recite the purifying heart mantra louder. These key training period did not ask much. As she finished speaking, the voice of the mantra increased by several degrees. For a time, the whole world was filled with the sound of Myomio's purifying heart mantra. The sky is high and the earth is vast. The art of meditation is as cold as ice for thousands of years. Forget about fate and things, and enter into a state of meditation, and the poisonous dragon will hide. I have no clues in my heart, and God rewards hard work. I'm righteous and awe-inspiring, and ghosts are all frightened. My emotions are overflowing, and the world is at my side. My ambition is high and the wind is rising. The sky is high and the earth is vast, and the water flows and the clouds move. Freshness cures the root, and the straight path is for the sake of life. The most natural and kind, the great way is natural. The reason why it is not loud is because the air here is too thin. Hey, have the guys in the sky had enough fighting? How about coming down to rest your legs after fighting? The first shout, the 8 people in the sky did not respond. I say, fellow Taoists, are you awake? Come down if you are awake. Fellow Taoistlin, you are the leader this time. We have wasted so much time, and time is running out. If we don't hurry up, someone may freeze to death here. After shouting a few sentences in a row, the 8 people in the sky finally hesitated. They fought slower and slower, and slowly. No one knew who stopped first, and the 8 people completely stopped this meaningless fight. These people floated in the sky in silence for a long time, looking at each other but saying nothing. Finally, after Yang Zhao called again, these 8 people flew down with indescribable expressions. How do you feel now? Are there any side effects? Do you want to recite the heart purification mantra with me? At the beginning, Yang Zhao didn't notice the fight above, but after they all flew down, Yang Zhao found something strange. Now their hair is messy, their clothes are stained with blood, and even the rune formations surrounding them have become messy, looking a little dangerous. Lin Sheng came over and bowed to Yang Zhao solemnly to thank him. The other 7 foundation building stage followed his actions behind him. Thank you for your help, Brother Yang. If it weren't for Brother Yang's alertness, I'm afraid we would have been killed. Yang Zhao quickly hid aside and waved his hand to let them get up. If I don't solve this matter, I will be in danger. Do you remember what happened before? We just couldn't control our emotions, but there is no problem in our memory. At this time, the key training cultivators who were chanting in Fenglings who had completely calmed down. They looked at these foundation building cultivators in Fenglings who, with some cowardice and complexity on their faces. After all, the excuse for these people to fight was that the key training cultivators marched too slowly. The foundation building cultivators looked at each other, and the one who first provoked them apologized to the key training cultivators. Brothers and sisters, we were framed by the villain, and we took our anger out on you. We are really sorry. The other 5 people also apologized. Our ability to cultivate our minds is not enough. We didn't notice such a disaster at all, and we were really wrong to vent our anger on you in the end. Now, the key training students felt a little embarrassed. Brothers and sisters, what are you talking about? The situation at that time was all framed by the traitors. How can you blame it on the brothers and sisters? That's right, let alone the brothers and sisters. Even we were affected at that time. We drew our weapons and wanted to attack Senior Yang. We should apologize to Senior Yang. These key refining stage cultivators followed Yang Zhao to apologize and thank him, and their tone was full of admiration that could not be ignored. Yang Zhao accepted their enthusiasm a little embarrassedly. This kind of emotion was too passionate. She had only seen it on the internet. In fact, the most embarrassed here were Lin Sheng, Liu Xiao and the other 6 foundation establishment stage cultivators. At that time, these 6 people scolded Lin Sheng and Lin Zishang so badly, and even took their anger out on Lin Sheng's father. So Lin Sheng's face has never been good, and Liu Xiao's face is almost the same, but now is a special period, and it is not good to delve into this matter. Brother Lin, Brother Liu, we won't say any more unnecessary words. We are really sorry. I will leave it to you 2 to deal with after this mission is completed. Me too. Not only will I apologize to Brother Lin and Brother Liu, but I will also apologize to Sister Lin in front of her when we return to the garrison. It's all because of that traitor's frame up. Otherwise, how could I, who respects Sister Lin so much, say something hurtful to her? And Uncle Lin has always been an elder whom I respect very much. No matter how beastly I am, I can't have such a rebellious idea. That's right. If it weren't for the conspiracy, we wouldn't dare to criticize Sister Lin, let alone criticize her in public. Liu Xiao opened and closed his mouth, and finally swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Yang Zhao saw that these 6 people were actually afraid of being retaliated by the Lin family after returning. After all, what they said was really hard to hear. Lin Sheng looked grim, but still waved his hand generously. Brothers, why are you talking about this? I was also greatly affected at that time. I know that those words were not from your heart. It is not your fault. You don't need to apologize. Then he quickly changed the subject and turned to ask Yang Zhao. I saw that after you summoned the thunder method, everyone's heart miasma was broken. Did you find something? Yang Zhao told them in detail about what he saw and drew a rough pattern on the ground with the tip of the dragon spear. This thing, do you recognize it? The 8 people gathered around and looked carefully. No, I have seen a few things that look very similar to the one you drew, but they don't have the ability to trigger everyone's heart miasma. We went to Luoyuan for the competition too hastily this time, and we don't know much about this place, so we fell into such a trap. We were careless. Let's call on the key training students to come and have a look. Maybe someone will recognize it. As a result, the 40 key training students came over and didn't know anything. Of course, it may also be that Yang Zhao's painting was a bit abstract, so these people couldn't recognize it. But no one said this reason, and they all tacitly admitted that their knowledge reserves were not enough. This matter came to an end, and Lin Sheng and his people entered Fengling Su one after another. Some of them sat cross-legged, taking medicine for their wounds and bandaging them. The other part followed Yang Zhao to guard the surroundings, fearing that they would be attacked by any enemies. After the 8 of them adjusted their status, Lin Sheng arranged for foundation building period to fly to the sky and at the same time flew a distance in 4 directions. You should explore carefully to see if there are any enemies nearby. As a result, the 4 people flew for a while and came back and did not find any abnormal human figures. After getting the result, everyone was relieved. Lin Sheng thought for a while and comforted everyone. Maybe this distance is too deep into our side. They didn't dare to come in themselves, so they could only release a monster to disturb us. The next journey should be safe. At this moment, the expressions of the more than 40 people present relaxed. Lin Sheng glanced around and said, "We have been delayed here for a while. Now time is running out. Let's set off quickly." The others agreed one after another. Lin Sheng turned to Yang Zhao and said solemnly, "Now only fellow Daoist Yang has seen that thing. I'll have to trouble fellow Daoist Yang for the rest of the journey." Yang Zhao nodded and responded, "Fellow Daoist Lin is polite. Don't worry, I will always keep an eye out for that thing." Finally, they followed the original formation and began to head for the number 3 mining site. However, this time their speed was much faster than before, and they basically rushed forward with all their might. For safety, Yang Zhao kept the incense casting divine body running all the time and would look back from time to time. She really had a great psychological shadow on that thing. The monster was like a ghost behind her, and she felt uncomfortable when she thought of it. The second half of the march was relatively smooth, without any major chaos. When night fell, they finally arrived at the number 3 mining site. The number 3 mining site was between a hill and huge mines, could be seen everywhere in the mining site. Now a small hill was covered with a golden rune, and inside the rune was a small town gathering place. There were high walls on the periphery of the town, and heavy soldiers were sent to guard it. There was also a large banner erected high in the center of the town. In order to avoid misunderstanding, as soon as they saw the number 3 mining site, Yang Zhao took out the flag of Yang Zhao Prefecture School and handed it to Lin Sheng. Lin Sheng held up the flag and loudly communicated with the soldiers in the number 3 mining site. "We are students from Yang Zhao who are participating in this competition. We are here to complete the competition mission. Please open the door." After a while, a man who looked like an official stood on the top of the city wall and responded loudly, "Who are you? Please tell us your name. We need to verify it." Lin Sheng from Yang Zhao Academy has brought the other 8 foundation building cultivators and 40 key refining students. You can verify it as much as you want. The man raised his hand, fiddling with something, and then answered, "You students from Yang Zhao Academy must line up to enter the city. You must go through the necessary inspections when entering the city. Please cooperate. Don't worry, we will follow your arrangements." Then Lin Sheng and his team lined up in the original formation. He took the flag and went in first to be inspected, while Yang Zhao and Liu Xiao followed behind. When they went in, some minor accidents still happened because those foundation building cultivators were all injured, which aroused the vigilance of the inspecting soldiers. It was Lin Sheng who went in first and explained to the man who seemed to be the commander, so as not to delay the speed of entering the city. When they entered, a faint blue arc had appeared on the horizon. The temperature dropped at a speed visible to the naked eye, which made many students in the key training period breathe a sigh of relief. After they were all checked, the man who seemed to be the commander led them to familiarize themselves with the surrounding environment, emphasizing the accommodation area and the dining area. "You are not the only one who came to the number 3 mine this time, but you are the last one." Lin Sheng, who would have thought that we would have an accident halfway and delayed our trip? I don't know if it would affect the competition. On the battlefield, it is always easy to encounter some accidents. This is a result that no one wants to encounter. Not only will it have no effect on the competition, It may also give you some extra points. The man nodded in understanding. You can go to the cafeteria to have a meal first, or you can go to the accommodation to rest first. As for the tasks for the competition, I will give them to you after you have rested. Liu Shao on the side came over. Thank you very much, General. May I know your name? My surname is Han. I'm not a general, just a small captain. I will be the one issuing your tasks for this competition. It turns out to be Captain Han. I've heard a lot about you. My name is Liu Shao. The next competition will still depend on Captain Han to take care of it. Liu Shao chatted with the Captain Han with a smile on his face. He was much sweeter than Lin Sheng. After a while, he got some general information about other prefectural schools from the captain. There were a total of 5 prefectural schools that came to the number 3 mine site this time. In addition to the Yang Zhao Prefectural School, there were also Chan Zhao Prefectural School, Yang Zhao Prefectural School, Zhao Prefectural School and Yang Zhao Prefectural School. The other 4 had arrived long ago, and Yang Zhao Prefectural School was the last to arrive. On their way from the door, they also met a dozen students from other schools who were watching the fun. Captain Han arranged a separate dormitory for them to rest, and then said goodbye and left. Liu Shao was very kind, and walked them a long way. The two of them whispered, and no one knew what they said. Anyway, when he came back, there was a smile on his face. It's okay, Captain Han said, that the number of foundation building stage students from each prefectural school this time is about the same. The Chan Zhao Prefectural School has the most, with only 2 more people than our Yang Zhao Prefectural School. Now everyone present looked better. They came here for the competition, after all, and only when the strength of both sides is similar can they have a chance to compare. Lin Sheng first divided the dormitory simply, and then took them to eat. This cafeteria is very large, and there are not many types of food in it, but the quantity of food is very generous, and it is free. Cultivators, both men and women, eat a lot. Yang Zhao felt that they had eaten up the entire cafeteria. I think too highly of myself. Yesterday the average subscription was 99, today it became 98, and then it became 99 again. It became 100 at 11 o'clock tonight. I will add another chapter tomorrow. Chapter 225. News. After eating and drinking, Lin Sheng and Liu Shao whispered a few words, and Liu Shao said hello and disappeared. After the group settled in the dormitory, the other key training stage all went back to rest, and Yang Zhao and the other 8 foundation building stage gathered together to wait for news. During this time, Lin Sheng sent the things that happened along the way to Lin Zisheng and Yao Guangshu through the messenger magic tool. But judging from his expression, the news that the other party replied should not be very good. They waited for half an hour, and Liu Shao came back from outside with a chill. In the number 3 mining site, only the temperature in the building can maintain a comfortable state. In other open places, in order to save energy, the temperature is generally maintained at a state that will not freeze the camel beasts. It is said that the camel beasts here can tolerate the cold very well. As soon as Liu Shao came in, everyone asked him to sit down. What's the matter? What attacked us? Liu Shao pulled a chair and sat down and said, I went to inquire about it. I didn't expect that the thing that attacked us was actually very important. His words aroused everyone's interest. Oh, what's the background? Liu Shao smiled mysteriously. That's a tentacle of the heart-eating beast. Yang Zhao was stunned when she heard that. What she saw was clearly a single monster. Did you really show them what I drew? The thing I drew doesn't look like a tentacle, does it? The others also had unbelieving expressions. I had the same reaction as you at first, but the garrison here did say that it was a tentacle of the heart-eating beast. It is said that the main body of the thing is more than 2 feet tall. The main body cannot be invisible, but its tentacles can be separated from the main body and act independently. The heart-eating beast loves people's anger and violent bad emotions the most. This helps them open up their spiritual wisdom, so they are born to provoke the anger of creatures. According to them, there are a total of 9 heart-eating beasts in Luoyang. Although each beast is a fierce beast, and can only separate 10 tentacles, they are well concealed, and not easy to be discovered. They have caused great losses to us all along. As he said that, he looked at Yang Zhao with envy. So the reward for this thing is not small. Even one of its tentacles is quite valuable. Fellow Daoist Yang, you are going to get rich. Yang Zhao's face was not happy. After all, that thing was struck to ashes by her lightning. She didn't find any broken limbs. How could she get the reward? Could they believe it just by words? I don't have any evidence to show that I killed that thing. How can people give me a reward for something that can't be verified? As soon as he said this, the other people present showed a look of laughter, and Liu Xiao laughed out loud. Fellow Daoist Yang, you still don't understand the relationship between them. That is the tentacle of the heart-eating beast. There is a way to verify whether you killed it. Wait until tomorrow. We will report this news. Once they verify it, the reward will definitely be given to you. Don't worry, you are now representing our Yang Zhao Prefecture School. We will definitely let them implement this reward. It was also because of the friendship along the way that Liu Xiao's words were already quite tactful. Yang Zhao's current identity is a student of Yang Zhao Prefecture School, no longer an outsider cultivator. Liu Xiao clearly told her that people with backgrounds and people without backgrounds get different results on the same thing. The students of Yang Zhao Prefecture School killed one of the heart-devouring beast's tentacles with lightning and saved the entire team of students. This is also a very eye-catching result in the entire competition. The military of Luoyuan will not and cannot take all the credit for themselves. Then I will take advantage of Yang Zhao Prefecture School this time. This sentence made all the foundation building cultivators present smile confidently. Lin Sheng directly invited, fellow Daoist Yang, what are you talking about? We haven't thanked you properly yet. When you leave Luoyuan, you must come to our Yang Zhao. I will treat you to a good tour of Yang Zhao's splendor. Our Yang Zhao has a rare flying river in the world. Flying river? What is this? Then I will really be shameless to disturb fellow Daoist Lin at that time. Don't say that you don't know me, a scoundrel. Ha 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 ha. Brother Yang, you are joking. If I don't recognize you, just use your big gun to hit me into the wall. With his words, everyone in the room laughed again. After everyone calmed down, Liu Xiao said again, I have already asked. The tentacles of this heart-eating beast can add 10 basic points to our Yang Zhao Prefecture School, and these 10 points will not be deducted. A foundation establishment stage was a little confused and asked him, what do you mean? How can there be a deduction or not? Lin Sheng, who was sitting next to him, answered this question while sending information with a messenger magic tool. Junior Sister Wu, you can see that you didn't listen carefully to the introduction of the gentleman. This time, not only will you get extra points if you do well, but you will also lose points if you make any mistakes. And our 10 points are a guarantee. Even if we make a lot of mistakes in the future, these 10 points will not be deducted. Junior Sister Wu was happy all of a sudden. In other words, we have at least 10 points. Lin Sheng put down the messenger in his hand. That's what I said, but that's just a guarantee. Do you really have the nerve to take 10 points back? Liu Xiao, what about the other thing I asked you to inquire about? This time Liu Xiao put away the smile on his face, and his expression became serious. The result of the other thing is not very good. He was silent for a while, as if he organized his words in his mind. If a small-scale exploratory attack occurs, we will not have any reinforcement if it does not exceed a certain range. If we want reinforcement, we can only contact the students who are participating in this competition together. Lin Sheng reacted quickly. In other words, the meaning of this competition is that we want our various prefectures and schools to cooperate more. The previous behaviors of dragging each other down and tripping each other up in the open are no longer allowed. Liu Xiao nodded with some regret. Not only is it not allowed to trip each other up openly, but even if we trip them up in secret, we must be careful to avoid being caught and having our scores deducted from the competition. Seeing the regretful expressions on the faces of everyone in the room, Yang Zhao was enlightened again. From these few words, it can be concluded that in previous competitions, the various schools should have tripped each other up a lot, and this should even be a unique culture of the competition. Lin Sheng got the exact answer and hurriedly lowered his head to tinker with the messenger, muttering silently, I don't know if it's too late to tell Yao Guangshu about this now. If it's too late, we can only pray that no one else will find out. We came late today, and the news we got was one step slower than others. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.